What's going on, everybody? Thank you for joining us for another program of LTMB Live. This is Let the Madness Begin. I'm Will Gaillard.
And I'm Mike White.
Your boy. What's going on, everybody? Thank you for being here again. This is Thursday, September 13th. And that hurricane is...
I know, man.
It's approaching fast.
It's approaching fast. So this is the hurricane show.
Yeah, man.
This is the flow show.
Exactly, man.
The flow show, man. We here. Rain, sleet, snow.
That's right.
Hurricane.
Now, we ain't experiencing anything.
I know,
really.
right?
It's been, like, gloomy since yesterday. It was raining yesterday a little bit.
And you can, like, kind of, like, feel the wind, that warm air and the wind coming. Like, it's like the, I guess, the setup for the hurricane. So you can kind of, like, feel it and see it. But it just feels kind of regular right now.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
But, yeah, it's... well, I guess like we can do a little update. The hurricane, which was on the previous show, I believe on Tuesday, it was a Category 4. It had reached a Category 4, but now it's been the wind speed has been reduced, so it's a Category 2 now. But that's still a pretty forceful hurricane. It can still reach landfall. It speeds up to 100 miles per hour, maybe even surpassing that. So it's still going to be a monster of a storm. One FEMA official said that Hurricane Florence is, quote, going to be a Mike Tyson punch to the Carolina coast. A Mike Tyson punch. So then also I guess the trajectory of this storm, this hurricane has changed as well. On Tuesday, it looked like it was going to hit Wilmington and then proceed north and not really, I mean, well, I guess some of it was going to hit the coast of South Carolina, but now it seems like it's going to hover across South Carolina for over the weekend, and that's because of the different winds that are going to be in the air. It's going to prevent it from going north or south or west, so it's just going to be hovering around South Carolina for a good while. So it's expected to be a lot of rainfall, and that will hit us in the center, in the center part of South Carolina.
Yeah, it's like I'm only worried about like maybe some flooding and maybe some power failures, but nothing too extreme.
Yeah.
I think like my family living in Charleston probably has more to worry about than I do.
Probably so. Yeah.
I say the only one of the things that people in the Midlands do have to worry about is those areas that were affected from the flood in 2015.
Right.
Some of those dams and some of those little streams actually haven't been repaired yet. Like the city hasn't repaired a lot of that stuff, so a lot of that stuff is still has damage to it, cones around it, barricades. It hasn't been fixed. So I'm concerned for areas in the Midlands because they already received a lot of damage from a flood 3 years ago, and if another flood comes,
true, because there were, like you said, there was some of these areas within Columbia. They got some pretty heavy rainfall. Homes were flooded, streets were flooded. So that is
the whole pet store that was under. There's a whole pet store that was on
that's true. That's right. Yeah, it is a fear. So we can just do our best to ride it out. We don't know exactly what's going to come, but of course we do expect a lot of rainfall, and hopefully there won't be too much flood.
Yeah, all the schools were canceled.
Yeah, it's been
all the schools
been canceled since Tuesday. All week has been canceled.
And usually when schools are canceled, all the activities are canceled too. So they canceled the University of South Carolina's football game.
That's right. Yep. So, like I said, I did see some people. I saw some people that living on the coast, and they're feeling like, we're gonna ride it out. There was this one young woman, I believe it was in South Carolina, and she said she was staying because I can't remember the exact word she used, but she said something like because it was thrilling. She wanted to stay because it was thrilling. She's a surfer, and you don't get to see tides this high.
Is she gonna surf?
I doubt it.
Is she gonna surf?
That would be a death wish right there.
But I'm just saying, if you mention this, I mean, if she's a surfer and she wants to see it, I don't know what that has to do with her being a surfer, though. If she's not gonna try it,
I don't know, man. I don't know.
I mean,
she has a house too on the beach too. I mean, she said it's further back than some, but it's still right there. So, man, best of luck to you. I mean, you're taking a chance with your life there,
You know, she is a surfer, so she probably has a little bit of like, I guess that I don't know,
like the risk factor.
That risk, yeah,
like
she has that, yeah. So she probably has that in her, but I don't know. I think it's you know, to me, you gotta compartmentalize that.
Yeah, man. Yeah, you gotta let that go sometimes.
You gotta let that go. This is real life.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? This is not like you bungee jumping and you get to go back home.
True. True. All right. So, all right, but a story that's somewhat connected to that though is Senator Jeff Merkley. On Tuesday night, he revealed some documents on MSNBC. He was on the show. He was on Rachel Maddow's show. And he released some documents displaying that it was about $9.7 million was redirected from FEMA, the Federal Emergency Management Agency, to ICE. And this was because they needed help with detaining immigrants. Like, they needed some more money to help detain immigrants. So this was somewhat, I mean, this was definitely newsworthy. This was definitely like a shock and awe, I guess a segment.
Yeah.
This was a document that I don't believe was released before. Nobody knew about it, but he released it.
Why would he feel the need to release it?
I guess because if you're noting what time period this is hurricane season. And so apparently this was done in the summertime. Some months ago, weeks ago, this was done in the summertime, maybe about June, and that was right when hurricane season starts. So the exact figure was $9,755,303. That was, like I said, redirected from FEMA to ICE. And in the document too, the Department of Homeland Security writes that because of that loss of $9.7 million, FEMA, quote, will curtail training, travel, public engagement sessions, IT security support, and infrastructure maintenance. It also says that without the transfer, ICE will not be able to deport those who have violated immigration laws. ICE could also be forced to reduce its current interior enforcement operations.
Because that's not ICE's job, though. ICE's job is not to deport people. Yes, like border security and border patrol, they have a particular radius that they're authorized, I guess, to patrol and whatnot. They have discretion. They can just turn people around, but for the most part, they pick people up, they apprehend people, and they detain them.
Right.
They determine their status, and then those individuals that are caught crossing the border illegally, what happens to them? They go to court. They face an immigration judge. So It's not ICE's job to actually deport people.
So I guess something to note here is that, like, there was also another report stating like how many children have been deported as well, or how many people are not deported, how many children are being detained currently, and it's thousands of children. And so all of this is happening, and it's not because there's like this sudden influx of people that are coming across the border seeking asylum or just trying to, become a citizen here, get legal status here in the United States of America. It's not like the Trump administration is just seeing this overwhelming increase of immigrants. No, it's just that they are preventing kids from going to live with other family that are here in the United States of America, as what was customarily done in previous years. And so what they want to do is just detain them, house them. And so they need extra money to do that. This is where they got it from.
So basically they have put themselves in a position to need money because now they have a no tolerance policy.
That's correct.
Not only is it a no tolerance policy, they don't care why people are seeking refuge in the United States. They don't care. They don't care if it's just people just trying to like sneak over to like make a better life for themselves.
Right.
People trying to sneak over because they feel they're in danger. People trying to sneak over because they have family over here and they can't get over. So there's a myriad of reasons why people may want to come over here. And the Trump administration, it says they don't care what the reason is.
Right.
So they don't care if people are trying to escape, let's say, cartel violence or whatever. They don't care.
Political retribution.
Political retribution.
Like
so they have created this situation. They've created a situation where they need extra cash, extra money to facilitate this new agenda. I'm like, they created it. Like,
and then the document does describe where the money is being taken from within FEMA. It's from FEMA's regional operations, response and recovery, mitigation, mission support, and law enforcement training budgets. So it tells you right within the document that it's coming from FEMA and it's addressing like these areas that, you know, FEMA uses this money for. But a Department of Homeland Security spokesman, Tyler Holton, he fired back at this suggestion that FEMA is, I guess, losing money and they won't be able to deal with upcoming threats, upcoming circumstances. So in a statement, actually this is on Twitter that he responded. He said, under no circumstances was any disaster relief funding transferred from FEMA to immigration enforcement efforts. This is a sorry attempt to push a false agenda at a time when the administration is focused on assisting millions on the East Coast facing a catastrophic disaster. The money in question, transferred to ICE from FEMA's routine operating expenses, could not have been used for hurricane response due to appropriation limitations. DHS, FEMA stand fiscally and operationally ready to support current and future response and recovery needs. There was also a briefing on Wednesday that addressed this as well, and a FEMA response and recovery official told reporters that the agency, quote, has plenty of resources to respond to the current storm, Hurricane Florence, that is approaching the Carolinas. I'm not buying what he says, because again, there's been no pushback on the actual document. There's been no pushback or just no word saying that the document is fake. And so if the document is real, if it is authentic, and it is saying that this money is coming from FEMA in these areas, response and recovery, and it's going to ICE, then I don't get how, if it's earmarked for that, it's not actually going to be applied to response and recovery, or couldn't it?
Yeah, apply to response and recovery. You attacked it the same way I would have, because when I heard that part, I was like, wait a second, you just admitted that money was for FEMA. You just said it wasn't going to be used for X, so therefore it really wasn't for FEMA. Then why was it allocated to for FEMA purposes in the first place? Why was that money directed for FEMA if it wasn't going to be used for FEMA activities? You can't say, well, I mean, that money was there, but it wasn't for FEMA. It was there in FEMA's pocket, but
it wasn't supposed to.
It wasn't supposed to be,
and they couldn't use it anyway.
It was like, well,
it was like their bank.
And he said what he said. He suggested that it exceeded the amount that was supposed to be appropriated for FEMA. But I was like, why was it there?
That doesn't make any sense. Like, there's some people that are believing this statement from this DHS spokesman, but again, it doesn't make sense if the document, in fact, is authentic.
And like you said, they didn't refute the document.
They didn't refute the document at all.
You can't do one thing. You have to say, no, this person is mistaken.
Right.
And this person is fabricating documents.
Exactly.
But if that
it's not one of our documents.
If that part wasn't said, then
exactly. We're just going to take you on your word instead of what is displayed on the document.
But I mean, are you surprised though?
No.
Are you surprised not just from the lack of denial, but the approach this administration has taken and how they're taking money away from disaster relief assistance to focus on deporting immigrants?
Right.
That's apparent. That's more important.
That's a top priority of this administration. And the tactic that they're using to excuse their actions too is just by lying. Just by telling them
what? Really?
Just by lying. Never mind. You remember what Trump said? Remember what you're seeing, what you're hearing
is not true.
It's not true. It's not really happening.
Don't believe what you see. Don't believe what you read. Don't believe when the media quotes me or anybody in my administration.
You see documents stating exactly what the situation is. Don't believe any of that. Just believe what we tell you.
Even if it's something I supposedly said, and it's being repeated back to you, and the video footage is being shown,
right,
and the words are coming out of my mouth, don't believe it. Don't believe it.
So I guess that leads us into definitely, you know, hurricane season and past hurricane season as well. Mm-hmm. So recently, Donald Trump has, you know, said a lot about the upcoming, well, you know, the hurricane that is here already now, and it's set to attack the eastern coast, Hurricane Florence. And I guess a reporter is at the White House in the Oval Office and asking him questions about maybe lessons that he's learned from, you know, dating back to Hurricane Maria in Puerto Rico. So we have that video, and we're gonna let you see that video, and then we're gonna come back and talk about it.
We take from what happened in Puerto Rico. How do we apply the lessons we took from Puerto Rico?
Well, I think Puerto Rico was incredibly successful. Puerto Rico was actually our toughest one of all because it's an island, so you can't truck things onto it. Everything's by boat. We moved a hospital into Puerto Rico, a tremendous military hospital in the form of a ship. You know that. And I actually think, and the governor's been very nice, and if you ask the governor, he'll tell you what a great job. I think probably the hardest one we had by far was Puerto Rico because of the island nature. And I actually think it was one of the best jobs that's ever been done with respect to what this is all about. I think that Puerto Rico was an incredible unsung success. Texas, we have been given A-pluses for. Florida, we've been given A-pluses for. I think in a certain way, the best job we did was Puerto Rico, but nobody would understand that. I mean, it's harder to understand. It was a very hard thing to do.
The reporter asked him, what lessons did he learn? I heard not one articulation of something that he learned through his experience.
Well, he didn't have to learn anything because it was such a tremendous success, an unsung success.
Unsung success, but I mean, aside from, I guess, his lack of self-awareness as far as how he dealt with Puerto Rico, I'm a little mad that he didn't reveal to us that we have the technology, transformer technology. You know what I'm saying? That kind of transformer technology.
Right.
And you know what I'm talking about, right?
Yes, I do. Yeah.
When he said they moved a whole entire hospital
to Puerto Rico.
And I was like, they moved. I was like, oh, he's talking about the ship.
The ship.
He's talking about the Red Cross ship.
Right. No doubt.
But I was like, but that's a ship that's built.
Yeah, it was already built before Hurricane Maria struck.
It's not like you're taking a hospital and like and then transforming it into a ship, and transforming it into a ship.
No.
And sending it to Puerto Rico.
You know what the most difficult part about the moving of the ship to Puerto Rico was? Just navigating the waterways to Puerto Rico. Well, it was just sailing.
You know what? Maybe he did learn that. He learned that you can create a flotation device. So he didn't know about ships before. He didn't know about hospital ships.
Oh.
Do you see what I'm saying?
Gotcha.
So maybe I'm wrong. Maybe he did mention something that he learned. He learned that there were hospital ships and they can go.
Yeah.
They can go across the water, the big water, around the big island.
Surrounded by
water. It's an island surrounded by water. I think you uploaded a video.
We did a video. Yeah. Look, this is offensive. It's offensive for a few different reasons. I'll probably highlight just two. One, it wasn't a success. Puerto Rico wasn't a success. Nearly 3,000 people died, and that's just the official death toll. Now, we don't know exactly, that's not, even though that's the official death toll, it's not like a guaranteed number. It's not like they know that for sure. They just suppose that is a pretty accurate number, and that was based on a study that was released by George Washington University as well. So it could be a little bit less, it could be a little bit more, straight up, right? But we know that it was definitely higher than the 64, that death count that was the official number for months and months and months. So to say that this was around like just a huge success when you know how many people lost their lives is offensive. For the second reason, though, when people have lost their lives due to a national disaster, or not a national, but a natural disaster like this, how do you grade yourself? Why would you even go that route to grade yourself? That, like, people died. You don't grade yourself in how you responded to the disaster. Like, if one person died, then you failed that one person. Do you understand that? Oh, like, if thousands died, my gosh, there's no way you can say that, oh yeah, A+.
I understand that, but are we surprised though? Remember what he said after 9/11? But now his building is the tallest.
That's right.
So it doesn't matter if it's a tragedy or not. He always sees himself in it. You know what I'm saying? No matter if he's suffering, he's always going to find himself to find a way to give himself like some sort of like pat on the back.
Pat on the back
somehow.
Right.
I actually thought you were going to mention the mayor of San Juan.
Yeah.
Was it something de la Cruz? Something
right.
Cruz?
Her name is Carmen Yulín Cruz.
Yeah.
Right. So okay. So we'll get to that now. So, like I said, the official death count was elevated to it was just under 3,000 individuals that died as a result of Hurricane Maria. It was 2,975. That's the official death toll now. President Trump is doing a full pushback on that number. He denies that number, and in a tweet, and actually in a couple tweets, it was just earlier this morning, on Thursday morning, he said so. He said 3,000 people did not die in the 2 hurricanes that hit Puerto Rico. When I left the island after the storm had hit, they had anywhere from 6 to 18 deaths. As time went by, it did not go up by much. Then a long time later, they started to report really large numbers like 3,000. He continued, this was done by the Democrats in order to make me look as bad as possible when I was successfully raising billions of dollars to help rebuild Puerto Rico. If a person died for any reason like old age, just add them onto the list. Bad politics. I love Puerto Rico.
Oh, he loved Puerto Rico, but what did he say about Puerto Ricans, along with the Puerto Rican government, in regard to them kind of requesting our assistance?
Yeah.
Or more assistance or more effort being put forth. What did he say about them? And
that's where we can reference the mayor of San Juan, Carmen Yulín Cruz, because she was very, very loud. She made news time and time again because she was pleading for help, pleading for support, because she knew that people were dying in Puerto Rico because of the lack of response by the United States government. And the response from President Trump was, well, you know, you Puerto Ricans are lazy. You know, you just want everything done for you.
I guess, you know, maybe he felt he was scoring actual points when he was shooting those rolls of paper towels across the room into like these imaginary baskets when people were holding their hands in a circular pattern.
But they weren't really.
Yeah, no, they weren't. He was like, hold your hand up like this. So maybe he actually thought that he was tallying points. He was scoring points. Maybe in his head, that's his idea of helping. And to be honest, like, as much as we talk about kind of Trump being a slimy business person, being completely like I guess lacking self-awareness in regard to how he treats people and how people perceive him, I honestly do think that sometimes he does feel like he's doing something. Like, even with that, even with him being like corrupt, and even with him being like a con man, I think sometimes he really feels that he's doing what he's supposed to be doing because he doesn't know what he's supposed to be doing. So all he feels he has to do is, like, you know, I guess sit through these photo ops and then like shoot paper towels across the room in like makeshift basketball goals, you know, made by people's arms. I do think sometimes he feels that he is doing a good job because of that, but and then at the same time he subconsciously tries to like cover up for himself because he knows that he is not doing a good job. Like, he is constantly trying to, like, cover his tracks. You know what I'm saying? When you make a bad path and when you make an impact with that bad path, you go back and look, it's like, oh shit, I got to cover that up with something, because he's in denial. That to me proves that, because one, he's trying to deny how many people died. Something else he was saying, it wasn't in the clip you played, but he was talking about the power grid. Did you hear what he said about the power grid?
Right, it was all a mess.
It was all a mess before. It wasn't working at all before, before the hurricane. Why would you say that? You only say that because you know you did not help them, like, rebuild.
You want to push the blame on.
You want to push the blame on somebody said it didn't exist. So again, I don't feel sorry for him, but it's kind of sad seeing a grown man, like, constantly having to clean up after himself. He's doing a bad job, but he's trying to clean up after himself because he knows he's a failure. He just cannot honestly deal with that.
His comments were absolutely vile, offensive. To deny that lives were actually destroyed, ended as a result of Hurricane Maria, I can imagine how the people of Puerto Rico feel. I can imagine how any U.S. citizen feels. They feel offended that our current president denies the lives that were lost because of a natural disaster. So again, the San Juan Mayor Carmen Yulín Cruz, she said on Twitter in response to this, she said, "This is what denial following neglect looks like. Mr. President, in the real world, people died on your watch. Your lack of respect is appalling." There were other comments as well. This is from the governor of Puerto Rico, Ricardo Rossello. He said, Puerto Rico suffered a terrible tragedy at the hands of Hurricane Maria, and we strongly denounce anyone who would use this disaster or question our suffering for political purposes. Again, this was far and wide the rebuke of President Trump's words. There was Representative Ted Lieu from California. He's a Democrat. He said on Twitter, the problem with this statement by Donald Trump on Puerto Rico is not just that it's a monstrous lie, it's that POTUS won't learn from the mistakes that were made if he views his efforts as an unsung success. That puts more Americans at risk in future disasters, which is absolutely correct, because again, we're facing an upcoming, it could be another disaster. We don't know what the overall results are going to be here on the, in South Carolina, North Carolina, Maryland, Virginia. We don't know what's going to come. But if he views 3,000 people being killed as an A+, as an unsung success, then what is he going to feel about when tragedy strikes again? It's like, if you don't learn any lessons, then it's like, man, like, what are you doing here?
He views it as fake news.
Exactly.
So it's not that, like, he's like, I guess it is some insensitivity involved in it, but he sees that 3,000 person number as fake news, just like he sees everything else that he doesn't like, and he knows it reflects upon him. Like, the thing is, but why would it though? Like, I think, like, there would have been a lot of deaths regardless of how we helped, because it was a hurricane, right, on a very exposed piece of land. So there was going to be a lot of deaths regardless. So, like, this is another case where he doesn't even know how to win. No. You see what I'm saying? Yeah. Like, for
he knows how to lose.
That's all he knows how to lose. For somebody who said that there's going to be so much winning, he can't even take an opportunity to notice a win when it's right in front of his face, because he could still acknowledge the deaths if he wanted to, because it is a hurricane. Right. You see what I'm saying? The reason why he doesn't acknowledge the deaths because he knows that he failed, and obviously Trump's personality is not going to accept that.
And like we said just earlier, he noted how it's an island surrounded by water, which made it difficult. It made it difficult to get to, supplies there. So it makes no sense that you would deny that these deaths actually occurred. It makes no. I mean, like, of course, people are going to blame you to some degree. You are the president of the United States. Of course, you're going to get some blame. But when you deny that the deaths even took place, now you're offending people. You're offending the families and the friends, everybody that lives on that island, and you're offending United States citizens as well that see you as the current president that can't even be compassionate, can't even be mindful of what you are actually saying and how you are hurting people. Andrew Gillum, the Democratic nominee for governor in Florida, he said no death is partisan, and our brothers and sisters in Puerto Rico deserve better from Donald Trump before, during, and after the hurricane. There was also some Republicans that made some comments as well. Andrew Gillum's opponent in the general election in November, Ron DeSantis, he said that, well, actually it was a campaign statement that released a statement from him, said Ron DeSantis is committed to standing with the Puerto Rican community, especially after such a tragic loss of life. He also added he doesn't believe any loss of life has been inflated. House Speaker Paul Ryan, he said in response to a question about Trump's claim that the number is inaccurate, he said, quote, I have no reason to dispute those numbers. Those are just the facts of what happened. Representative Ileana Ros-Lehtinen, she said that Trump has, quote, a warped mind that would turn this statistic into fake news about himself. Also on The View earlier today, Abby Huntsman, she's the conservative voice on The View, and she tried to change the conversation into about who's to blame for what happened. And see, that's a deflection tactic. Now, again, like you were saying, this was a hurricane, right? This was a hurricane. So, and this was the island of Puerto Rico surrounded by water. So, of course, there were going to be some deaths, right? So it was even the San Juan mayor, Carmen Yulín Cruz, that said, I don't rate my activities as a success. I think I could have done more. I wish I could have done more, right? So that's somebody that, like I said, she was front and center, just pleading for assistance, pleading for some help so that, even more lives weren't destroyed. So this shouldn't be, well, you know what? I'll say this. The only reason that this is, I guess, like the narrative is about blame is because Trump does things like throws paper towels like it's a basketball into the crowd of people that need supplies just to survive. I guess it's a conversation about blame in Trump because he said about the Puerto Rican people, he said, let me see, where is it at? He said it wasn't a real catastrophe like Katrina. You remember he said that as well.
So, it
seems like this dude is not a president that even cares about the people of Puerto Rico.
So she wouldn't have even had to go in that direction.
No.
If Trump would have responded accordingly.
If he would have just been a president, man. If he would have just been a leader, there was no reason to shit on the death toll. The official death toll. There's no reason to shit on the lives that were destroyed, that were lost. And this whole claim that it was like, what he said, 6 to 18 lives. When I left, it was only 6 to 18. Okay, you understand that the hurricane had just hit, right? So there's no way that they can have like an exact official number when they can't even get to places on the island.
Yeah, because there was massive amounts of flooding. Yes,
electricity was down. I mean, to expect that they have an accurate number days after just a catastrophic hurricane had hit the island is ridiculous.
And to expect that number not to go up is even more ridiculous. And to act as if, again, that's another instance where he does believe that number is true. Why even say, well, the number was this when I was there?
Right.
Why would that even matter?
Why?
Why would that even matter?
Because of course it's going to go up. Anybody can tell you it's going to go up.
The only reason why any person would even mention that is because he knows those new numbers are most likely accurate, and he feels that those deaths are on him, even though they're not.
So like you said, if it's negative news pertaining to himself, then it's obviously going to be fake news. It can't be real news, and that's the message. That's the message that I'm going to sell to my people.
And so it's weird.
It's negative. It's fake. Don't believe it.
You know what's even sadder? The fact that even DeSantis understands that.
And to know who Ron DeSantis is, a fervent Trump supporter. Now, I will say this, though, and you know what? There's another comment coming from Florida as well. This was the current governor of Florida, Rick Scott. He said, I disagree with POTUS. An independent study said thousands were lost, and Governor Rossello agreed. I've been to Puerto Rico 7 times and saw devastation firsthand. The loss of any life is tragic. The extent of lives lost as a result of Maria is heart-wrenching. I'll continue to help Puerto Rico. So, look. Pretty much, I haven't seen anybody but like his supporters on social media actually backing up his comments. The Republicans that actually hold office or are trying to attain office are all making statements just like that. Now their supporters are like, oh, they're furious at them. Like they're like, I thought you were a patriot. You know, I thought you were going to support Trump. You don't like disagree with Trump like out in the open. You know, we're here. Well, you're there to support MAGA. And if you can't do that, we don't want you.
What were they supposed to do? This is like a national topic. This is a national issue.
He's the one that made it public.
Exactly. It's a national tragedy. So you're asking people who I guess are representatives of the state that's closest to Puerto Rico not to say anything. First of all, even if they tried not to say anything, their I guess their advisors would be telling them, you need to release a statement about this.
How could you not say anything, though? You know you're going to get questions about it.
You're going to get questions about it anyway. So it's
like, you're just going to be like, run away, I have no comment?
So it actually has zero to do, well, I wouldn't say it has zero because it is connected to Trump, but it really has nothing to do with how they support Trump in other areas. Like there is no separation with people now as far as people who like unconditionally support Trump, that 30 to 35%. There is no wiggle room at all. And as you see with how people responded to it, they kind of have a very kind of an authoritarian type of approach to how they support Donald Trump. Like, it's unpatriotic. Like, wait a second, like, he is in the position of presidency. Like, simply because he makes a statement or he has a position and you disagree with it, that doesn't make you against the presidency itself.
Make you unpatriotic.
Yeah, that's something. You're not against the office of the presidency. You are just saying, hey, this individual is wrong. So in a lot of people's minds, those two things are not even separate.
I have a problem with the way most of these Republicans did respond to it, though. Now, I'm not surprised that they responded in the way they did, but the ones that actually gave a forceful rebuke of what Donald Trump said are either not in office or they're leaving office, just like the representative Eliana Lehtinen. So she, of course, like I said, she said Trump has a warped mind that would turn this statistic into fake news about himself. The other people that are in office that request to still be in office or that are trying to seek office, they give statements like Rick Scott did, like Ron DeSantis did. So this would, like I said, his comment, Donald Trump's comments were so vile and offensive. It does deserve like a full rebuke. It deserves to be called out for what it is. I mean, it's hateful speech. It's unbecoming of a president, of a leader, and it needs to be stated just like that. But these Republicans, they just can't remove their support. They just can't do it.
So you think it's just like, hey, I don't see any reason. It's almost like, I don't see any reason why the numbers are false. Yeah. I believe the numbers. Don't hit me, Trump. Don't hit me. You know what I'm saying? It's kind of like they're coming in like all meek and like just I'm going to make a general statement without trying to offend the dear leader.
Yes, and his supporters.
And his support. But it doesn't matter because his supporters are still going to see it that way. Exactly. So why not do what you said? If his supporters
just be real about it.
If his supporters are going to see it that way anyway, because essentially just disagreeing with Trump or disagreeing with the facts at hand that are available to everybody is tantamount to treason, essentially, to Trump and his supporters. So, I mean, why not just be honest? But like you said, they have nothing to lose.
Again, Donald Trump's words were absolutely vile. But again, this was a man on the campaign trail that said, quote, I could stand in the middle of Fifth Avenue and shoot somebody and I wouldn't lose any votes. So think about how his base, think about how his supporters are going to handle this news. Like, how are they going to respond to his objectionable words? Are they going to be concerned about him? Are they going to feel like it was betraying the United States of America? Are they going to frame it as like he's actually like being offensive to actual lives that were ended because of a natural disaster?
Okay, so
are they going to feel like that?
Oh, and you know, now that I think about it, and you're talking about his supporters, like, you know, I think we can always overstate how, I guess, Trump behaves. We can always end up, like, I guess, preaching to the choir, because it's pretty easy to see how Trump doesn't, I guess, regard humanity with any kind of, you know, respect at all. But I think, like, the main focus should be him being able to retain support. Because if he could kind of publicly articulate himself in a way that shows he has a disregard for human life and still get the support he does, then what does that say about the people that support him? They have that same disregard for human life. And that's kind of like how I look at it, as far as going beyond criticizing Trump, going beyond talking about how bad of a human being he is, which is a big duh to me and most people observing this presidency and his administration. But I think the bigger concern is the amount of people that support him, even though it's in the 30s, 35%. It's still a lot of damn people.
It is a lot of people. And like at this point,
vote.
At this point, that like this isn't us and Trump and his supporters having a disagreement. Like, this isn't just us being on the other side of an issue. This is a moral problem here. All right, this is an ethical problem. When you're trying to fight somebody on morality, what can you do?
When you're, it's, what's that saying? It's like, you can't beat crazy. I think this is one of those situations. So it's like we're constantly like spinning our wheels about Trump as an individual, and, you know, I guess bringing back decency and respect to the office of the presidency and whatnot. But like, I think that's kind of empty, especially when he gets so much support, and those same people have similar moral failings. So what are we going to do about those people? You see what I'm saying? Because they still vote.
They still exist.
They still exist.
Will continue to vote.
They will continue to vote, whether Trump gets impeached, whether Pence is there or not. Those people are not going to go away, even when Trump goes away, whether he gets impeached or whether he goes away in 2020, which is kind of a stretch, because would they run somebody against him?
I don't know.
That would be crazy if they did. But if he's not here in 2020, those people are still here.
Like you said, it still is a big percentage when you look at his approval numbers, even though it's in the 30s. That's still a big portion of this country. But we know that there were a lot of people that weren't supportive of his language, and I guess what they, I guess perceived as like racism, bigotry. They weren't supportive of that. But I guess Hillary Clinton was like a bridge too far. Some of them say they wanted a businessman. Some say that they wanted somebody that wasn't a politician, somebody that would straight talk them. So I just wonder what they're feeling when things like this happen, because this isn't about immigration. This isn't about immigration at all. This is about a U.S. territory. This is about U.S. citizens. Okay? They may be brown. Yeah, they may be brown. But a natural disaster hit them. This isn't about immigration. They did nothing wrong but occupy an island, and thousands of them perished because of it. And some of the blame definitely has to be placed on this current administration, which, the response was somewhat slow. And the compassion was not there from Donald Trump as well. So I'm sorry, you can't ignore that reality. You can't ignore these facts. So like I said, I just wonder. I just wonder if they're able to just keep doing this. I just wonder.
Oh no, I guess me being a bit pessimistic about, I guess people in the United States. I think that's quite easy for them to do, and the people of the United States, for the most part, have kind of a historical legacy in regard to doing things like that, just going like this. I see it every day. I see it every day in social media. I see it when I go to work. I see it when I talk to people, when I run into people. I run into thousands of people like every month just doing the work I do, and I see it. I see it in the chat section too. I see people try to cover up and try to massage their consciousness about certain things. Like we're all equal and we all have things we need to work on type of mentality. Like we all need to just look in the mirror type attitude. I see it all the time. You know what I'm saying? But see, I'm not like a part of a power structure that can affect someone's lives. My little missteps don't really like impact a lot of people. You see what I'm saying? Like I may have said something rude to somebody one day and hurt their feelings. That's probably maybe the impact I have. Maybe I should have called my grandmother more. Or called my aunt more, or called my parents more, or talked to my sister. See, that's the kind of things I have to look in the mirror about.
Maybe you cut somebody off.
Maybe I cut somebody off in traffic.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Maybe I said, like, get the fuck off the show to somebody on the phone, William, on a call we took.
Hey, ruined his whole night or something.
And ruined his whole, you know what I'm saying? Rumor man, you know what I'm saying? Something like that.
Right.
But we have representatives who make decisions that actually impact people's lives to the point where they're contemplating suicide, or they're contemplating whether they want to live here any longer, or contemplating whether they can even make it in life. They're struggling to feed their family.
Or in the case where it's not about a decision that they have to make, they don't have options. In the case of what happened in Puerto Rico, it wasn't like these people had an option to live or die. You know what I'm saying? So the actions, the decisions on that these politicians make, whether it be the president of the United States, whether it be a congressman, congresswoman, doesn't matter. Sometimes you take the options away from people because of the decisions that you are making. Exactly. And you destroy lives because of that.
Exactly. And you know what? You know who helps them do that? Voters.
No doubt, man.
Voters help them do that. So yes, I do believe that we all have to look in the mirror, at ourselves and, reflect upon the things we need to do to change. But I do think there is a big difference in looking in the mirror for one set of faults and one set of character traits, and then looking in the mirror for like another set, like let's say like hating an entire group. You see what I'm saying? That's a character trait that promotes hate and division. Right. So,
All right. So let's move on. All right. So on the last program, we talked about Botham Jean and his killing at the hands of a Dallas police officer named Amber Gaillard. Botham Jean was a 26-year-old black man, and Officer Gaillard is a 30-year-old white woman. And based on what she has told investigators, she went to the wrong floor of her building. It was the Southside Flats in Texas, in Dallas, Texas. She went to the wrong floor, and she mistakenly entered Botham Jean's apartment, and she mistook it. She mistook it for her own, and she opened the door. Somehow it was open. It was partially open.
Ajar. It was ajar.
It was slightly ajar. Swung open. She saw a large silhouette figure. Took that for an intruder. The intruder did not follow verbal commands, so she took out her firearm. Or actually, she already had her firearm out when she saw the silhouette. She took it out when she saw the silhouette, and because she didn't notice that the door was open, even if this was her home. She didn't notice that the door was open. Like if you're a police officer and you're going into your home and you see that the door is open, you would immediately pull out your piece and go in with the piece, but she didn't.
But what she did is, even though the door was ajar,
but she didn't know that, obviously.
She didn't know it, so she tried to use her key.
Yes.
Even though the door was ajar.
Yeah. I digress. I digress.
Yeah, like we can go over again all the things she had to just ignore.
Exactly. Yeah. But anyway, so yeah, she ended up shooting him twice. He later died, or he was later pronounced dead at a hospital. So the attorney for Botham Jean's family is attorney Lee Merritt, and he appeared on CNN with Brooke Baldwin to discuss the circumstances with her, and he talked about the two witnesses that have come forward and who he has spoken to about what they heard presumably at Botham Jean's at his door. So we're gonna play that video, and then we're gonna come back and talk about it.
So the two witnesses are actually roommates, and one was in the living room, the other one was in her bedroom. One was in the living room watching television, the other in her bedroom. They both heard a knock or a pounding on the door. The one who was closer to the scene in her bedroom reading a book, she heard pounding followed by a female's voice saying, "Open up, let me in." She said the voice didn't sound like an officer command, but sounded like someone who wanted to be let into the apartment. She said that was shortly followed by the sound of gunshots and the sound of a man's voice saying what she believed to be, "Oh my God, why did you do that?" Again, I have a difficult time figuring out how those facts play into what we know. But I know that if a door is locked, there's no one pounding on it. I'm sorry, if a door is open, there's no one pounding.
There wouldn't be anyone pounding on it to let them in. Why do you know? Did this officer and Mr. John, did they know each other?
No one that I know who has a personal relationship with both of them can connect these two in any meaningful way. The only connection that we have been able to make is she is his immediate downstairs neighbor. And there were noise complaints from the immediate downstairs neighbors about whoever was upstairs, and that would have been both of them. In fact, there was a noise complaint that very day about upstairs activity in Botham's apartment. Botham received a phone call about noise coming from his apartment from the downstairs neighbor.
That is new information. We did not know that information on the last broadcast. We knew about the accounts of the two witnesses that they, like I said, they heard banging on the door. They heard someone saying, "Let me in," or kind of like shouting, "Let me in." And then I guess the words of who they presume is Botham John saying like, "Why'd you shoot me?" But this account, this whole story about how there was a complaint, a noise complaint, on that same very day. We didn't know that.
That puts a different spin on this whole story.
Yeah.
Because it was assumed that she went to the wrong apartment by accident. Again, I could understand that. I've known people who have done that. And it's understandable in an apartment complex like that, where you have to go up the ramps of a parking garage and park on a particular floor. Maybe it was full to capacity on one floor and she had to park on another floor. I can understand that. Right. And she forgot that she parked on another floor. I can understand that. All that I can understand. Going into the wrong apartment. After she got there, I can't understand any of that stuff.
No.
But with this information added in about noise complaints, now it looks like the whole entire thing is a lie. It already did, but now
we didn't have any added information to be like what it possibly could be about.
Yeah, so now it's like it's even more set in me that her entire story is a lie. I already believed her entire story was a lie, but now I'm even more hardwired to think that now, because she has a history with this individual in that same apartment.
Yeah, and he lived directly above her, so of course, if there was a noise complaint, it would be coming from her. You know, being that she lived underneath, maybe there was some stomping or what have you. We don't know. We don't know the details. But again, this gives us a little bit of added context. And it gives you something more to grab onto, because you couldn't grab onto anything that was released in that affidavit, because it completely it read like bullshit.
It completely absolved her.
Yes.
Of any wrongdoing other than just her making an innocent mistake.
And so there was this woman on Facebook now, and her name is Melissa Ann, and she claims to she claims to live in this complex, in the Southside Flats, in that building. And so she made a series of videos on Facebook. She put them on Facebook, and she's kind of trying to break down Officer Geiger's statements in that affidavit, saying that, the door was partially open. It was slightly ajar. And so she's kind of trying to make the door stay ajar, which is pretty difficult, because the door automatically swings back closed if it's open.
It's kind of like those doors in hotels.
Yes, it's exactly like that. Now, she was able to get it to where it was slightly open, but it's still noticeable. It wasn't to the degree where it was shut but not closed.
And actually, she had to try it over and over again, and the only way she was even able to get the door to have a crack in it is if she delicately, purposefully and delicately placed the door right by the edge of the door frame, so it wouldn't slam closed. And even when she did that, she had to try multiple times. Even when it was this close, it was literally this close. She had the door this close,
yes,
and the door shut. So you can't leave the door open.
So you would have to assume that Botham Jean did the same thing purposely, because you couldn't do it by accident. You couldn't walk in, and just, even if he didn't lock the door would be shut if he just let it go. But per her words, Officer Geiger's words, it was already open. All she had to do was actually push it with her key. It doesn't hold water.
Her second, framing of the scenario.
Well, I guess directly from her mouth and from the Texas Rangers.
To the Texas Rangers.
Yeah.
Okay, not the statement given by the anonymous officer.
These are authorized words. Yeah. Like I said, and then also she made a video as well where she's in the garage. She's driving in the garage, and she's going up the floors, and she goes up to the 4th floor, and the very top of the building would be the 5th floor of the garage. The 5th floor is the very top. There's no ceiling or anything like that, so you would know you're on the 5th floor, but you would also know that you're on the 4th floor as well, because that's the last floor until you get to the top. And then there's not windows, but you can see out. There's openings. So this is what I was saying on the last show as well too. If you're there, and I can't negate the fact that she's a cop and she's supposed to be observant, right? They're trained to be this way. So if you're at a certain height, at a certain level, but you're not used to being on that level, everything is going to appear differently. If you look out, it doesn't matter if it's dark or not. There are lights out there. Things are going to look different. So it's possible that you could go to the wrong apartment, but
it's not. The issue is not going there per se, and from the first step. The issue is getting through all those other points in which you have to be unaware of to get to that last step and to get to the apartment. I believe I can't remember the lady's name on Facebook. It was Melissa something.
Melissa Ann.
Yeah. She basically did an investigative walkthrough. Pretty much. Yeah. She did an investigative walkthrough, and then she did sound very balanced. That's where I got the whole, Geiger could have parked on the wrong floor on purpose, because she even said sometimes it gets full late at night. So you can park on the wrong floor. You can park on the floor that doesn't correspond to where your apartment is. She even said that. But there was a big but in there. Mm-hmm. On all the parking spaces and numbers, it's numbered in a way that represents what level you are on. Yes. The parking spaces are numbered, so it's level 3 is 300 and so and so. Level 4 is 400 and so and so. And even when you're walking through the elevator or corridor or whatever she was showing, it actually has the number to the floor you're on. And she had to walk past like 15 other apartments to get to Botham Jean's apartment. So she had to ignore all those numbers too before she got to his. And not just ignore his number. I didn't even mention that the last show. She had to ignore all those other numbers and ignore the red mat on that floor. So there was a lot of things she had to ignore. And you mentioned this, like, again, the last time. Not just the parking garage, but like you said, when you're walking out on the, like, I guess outside the apartments where the balconies are, you could definitely see that, you know,
you're on a different level. If you're used to being on a, it's just not going to feel the same. The optics aren't going to be. You're not going to feel the same. Something is going to feel off. I think that at this point, the two, I guess, pieces of evidence that are rubbing me the wrong way is one about the door being slightly ajar. I think that's complete and utter bullshit. One, if it was ajar, you would have noticed it was ajar, and if it was ajar, Botham Jean would have had to make it ajar purposely.
You know what else the lady kind of illustrated as well, as far as what is directly by the door. What is directly by the door? What did she show us?
Light switches.
Light switches. I'm talking about. This is the door right here. The edge of this table is the door. The light switches are literally right here.
But see, and that's useful for any home. An apartment or house. I don't know that I've ever been in a home where the light switches aren't right there. So this whole notion that after she shot him, she just directly went in there and got on the phone with 911 and started CPR on Botham Jean before she cut the light on. Absolutely not. But like the second piece, I think, which like just rubs me the wrong way, is the red mat at the door. There are certain things that are like, you know how like you're on automatic sometimes, right? You're just like going throughout your day. Sometimes you're in the car driving and you lose like maybe 5 minutes and like, damn, hold on. I really wasn't paying. How the hell did I get here so fast? Like, it's just you're on automatic. But you know what you're doing, right?
Yeah.
So I understand that there are some things that you would just like forget, like you wouldn't notice
because you're just on like autopilot,
yeah.
And you're constantly doing these things every day, and you don't remember like whether you did or did not do something. It's kind of like, have you ever left the house and be like, and you were cooking,
right?
You're like, did I leave the stove on?
Right.
But like you're so used to cutting it off and going through that motion, that repetition that you forgot you did it.
Exactly.
Or like you left the iron on, because sometimes you do leave the iron on. But if you usually don't, you may forget because you're so used to doing it.
But if you're around somewhere and like if you're around an area where everything is always the same, then like those things can happen. Like you don't pay attention to things. But when a damn red mat is outside the door that's never been in front of your apartment before, autopilot goes off. Now you're in manual mode. There's no way you can get to that door, see a red mat, and think everything is the same, everything's cool. No. There's no way you don't notice that mat.
Not a beige mat.
No.
Not a gray mat.
It didn't blend in.
Not like a warm color.
There's no way that,
it was bright. It was a bright red mat.
Because it's not like you could be like, oh, I had my head down.
Yo, if it was like a gray mat that blended in, I may give her a mulligan. I still wouldn't believe her story, but that
red mat. Nah, man.
Yeah, now like to me now it looks like she purposely went there, and I think that is definitely why that statement, that official arrest affidavit, was crafted in that way. Now I understand that they have to get her official statement. I understand that. That's what that's about. They get her official statement, and that's reflected in the affidavit. That's not what I guess those who are taking her statement believe. That says nothing about what they think about the case. That is,
even though it kind of appeared like they were doing too much.
I would say yes, they were doing too much and allowed her to craft that story. And I just think it's interesting that a random woman did a simple walkthrough and kind of proved to herself and people who saw those videos she uploaded that the story like doesn't make sense.
No,
it doesn't make sense. So I'm assuming that the defense is going to kind of rip her apart as well with those explanations, she's most likely not going to get on the stand. I guarantee you she's not going to get on the stand.
No. 'Cause that story will come.
I am actually hoping, I'm hoping that there's maybe some surveillance cameras.
We don't know that. Yeah, there's been no word of any surveillance cameras. So.
You would think an apartment building like that would have,
because this was a upscale apartment building. So I don't know. But let's get to Dana Loesch. Dana Loesch decided to weigh in on this tragic killing. National Rifle Association spokeswoman Dana Loesch, she decided to act like she actually cares about black people for at least the second time, but we'll get to that. So Loesch, on her program Relentless, which is on NRA TV, she said that if Botham Jean had been a law-abiding gun owner, that he may not be dead today. So we have the audio from that.
You know, this could have been very different if Botham Jean had been, say, he was a law-abiding gun owner and he saw somebody coming into his apartment. I don't think there's any context in that the action would have been justified. I mean, if I see somebody coming into my house and I'm not expecting them and they're walking in like they own the place, I would act to defend myself. And this could have been very differently had he actually had a firearm on him. Maybe it would be a different individual. She might be the one carried out.
You know, I don't often feel like using violence. You know, I don't often feel like that. I could say that maybe this is the second time on this program I felt like that, because the first time would have been about what Trump said and just like I said, shitting on all those lives that were destroyed because of Hurricane Maria in Puerto Rico. But this one, Dana Loesch.
Oh, you want to get her in a room alone and have her sit in a chair, and you know what I'm saying? And
she can get some elbows.
She can get some elbows. See, I would take it further. I posted on Facebook about this, and I said I wanted to massage her face with a rusty chainsaw. I probably wouldn't do that, but that's kind of how I felt. Internally, that's how I felt. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know, like, if she's always been a horrible human being. I really don't. I mean, all I know is I know her in reference to her position with NRA, and a little bit before that too. But still, I don't know, like, if she's been a horrible human being, like, her whole life. But what I do know is that, like, what she has to do as far as being the executive of communications for the NRA, whatever her position is, spokesperson, she has to be a horrible human being, because she is the spokesperson for an organization that kind of exploits people's, I guess, position on the Second Amendment, and uses that, exploits people's, like, weakness for it to sell guns, and they use every situation to do that. And that allows them, well, the profit allows them to excuse the carnage. The profit allows them to excuse the carnage. Now, I think there's another reason she's on television talking about this, and it's not to kind of promote the NRA and just unconditional gun sales. I think she was low-key blaming Botham Jean and trying to offer some cover for the police, for law enforcement, who they are have shown, I guess, been partial for, I'll say. They're partial to law enforcement. So I think it's like her appearance is kind of, two-pronged. It's to kind of promote the NRA agenda, sell guns at all costs, and then also stick up for law enforcement and not blame who's supposed to be blamed, and then blame the victim. See, I felt just immediately, and I do feel that she was really trying to get some black support. Because think about this. We see black lives destroyed in this country at the hands of law enforcement. It's common. To say that
you know, it happens multiple times a day. I mean, I'm not gonna go that far, but it happens too commonly. It's not a shock when it happens anymore. It's not a shock when police brutality happens. It's not a shock when an unarmed black person gets killed by law enforcement. This is not a shock in 2018. So I think she understands that. I think she understands that the black community understands that, and I think she understands that, hey, since they know that they're at a point where their lives are literally threatened on a daily basis. Hey, let me do something to push my agenda. Let me do something to get some more guns out there in the hands of black people. Let me get some black support for the NRA. That's the way I looked at it.
But see, like, you can't do that unless you address the cops' actions. And like I said,
this cop, she addressed her actions.
Yeah.
But in law enforcement,
in general.
Oh no.
And see, and that's the irony. Then again, like, it's, you know, when you like are working so hard to either defend the indefensible, or you're constantly trying to promote an agenda that truly isn't, I guess, representative of everyone, then all of the positions you take will end up like looking bad because you're trying to rationalize something you can't rationalize. And when we bring up the fact that they're partial to law enforcement and they're usually reluctant to kind of speak out about law enforcement behavior in general, it's ironic because think about what kind of danger her advice puts law enforcement in now. Those very people that they are partial to, her advice now puts them in danger. Do you know how many no-knock warrants are served on a yearly basis? About 20,000. Now, they are overused, I'll admit that. So this is not about mentioning no-knock warrants because, you know, they're all legit. They're overused. 80% of no-knock warrants are just used for freaking drug investigations. 7% are used for hostage situations. And for the most part, from between 35 and 50% of the time, they don't even find anything. But the point is, cops serve no-knock warrants hundreds of times a day. Now, how is a citizen going to tell the difference between a cop accidentally, wink wink, because that's what Dana Loesch believes happened. That's what most people believe. That's the common narrative about this story was accident. So how can a person tell the difference between a cop accidentally barging in and then purposefully and legally barging in and serving a warrant?
Well then, okay. So then I can adjust what I said then. Maybe it's two-pronged then. Maybe she's serving two purposes. Maybe she's just trying to appear like she's actually supporting the black community. What she really wants is black deaths.
Yes, because
if you bring in that narrative about the no-knock warrants, if you're bringing in that officers' lives might actually be put in jeopardy, think about that. Like think about if officers do engage in that behavior where they're actually entering the homes and black people have guns. You think they're gonna like wait to shoot them? No, they're gonna shoot them. And see, the whole narrative about if Botham Jean actually had a gun, this might have went down a different way and the officer's life might have been ended. We don't know exactly what happened in that apartment, okay? Because as Officer Gaillard tells it, she opened the door and he was there, right? Now, that seems phony. So is it what the witnesses say? Is that it seems like if she was banging on the door, then eventually like she got let in by Botham Jean. And so then it just like if she had broken into the home, like a lot of times breaking and entering, like you don't have a chance to even get your gun. You don't understand? Like,
you know what?
If it happens that immediately,
that's exactly what I
you're
was
assuming that a person is going to have a handgun like on their hips, sleeping with it. This was about 10 o'clock at night. If it was dark, if he was going to sleep, you're assuming that a person has that firearm at the ready in case anybody breaks in. That's just not reality. A lot of times when people break in, they are not like they're not put down by a gun. Sometimes that happens, but that is not like, that's the exception, not the rule.
Like, you know, I don't doubt that Dana Loesch is about that life. She probably got a gazillion guns. She may or may not. I wouldn't be surprised.
She may sleep with one under a pillow.
She may sleep with one on the pillow, but, like, regardless of whether somebody's a law-abiding gun owner or not, most gun owners, period, are not walking around with a gun at all times. And you know what?
Especially not.
And I'm willing to say not. I'm willing to say that Dana Loesch is not either. You know what I'm saying?
Not in their home.
Especially not in her home.
Because you feel safe in your home, right? You're supposed to feel safe in your home.
But let's say Botham Jean was carrying a gun. If Gaillard would have entered that apartment and he had a gun, is it safe to assume that she would be even more startled, whether the person was white or non-white?
Right.
That would make her more likely to shoot, wouldn't it?
That would
if
give
she
her an
entered the apartment,
to shoot.
that would have gave her a reason to shoot.
Right.
You see what I'm saying? So it's like if she saw somebody with a gun, whether it was accidental entering or a purposeful entering, that scenario is going to most likely justify that officer, regardless of whether they were on duty or not. She still had her uniform, because I kept hearing people say, well, she was off duty. She was off duty. So that wouldn't apply. So the no knock warrant, that's not a good argument because she was off duty. But I was like, but she was still in uniform. Like if some officer barges in here right now,
yeah, you're gonna assume they're on duty.
You're gonna assume they're on duty.
Exactly.
I'm not gonna be like,
I'm
like, wait a second, are you on duty? I'm not.
Should I be scared?
Should I be scared right now?
Yeah.
Like, are you off the clock? Like, nah.
But anyway, so well, actually, because of what Dana Loesch had to say, Philando Castile's mother, she had a response, and of course, Philando Castile, he was gunned down by a very nervous cop that thought he was reaching for a weapon, or he said that he thought he was reaching for a weapon. But she said, her name is Valerie Castile. She told the Daily News, quote, "My son was a licensed gun owner and it didn't help him. He's dead because he gave that information to an officer." He also says Jean was in his home inside a nice building with security. He had a right to feel safe in his own home. He wasn't expecting someone to come in uninvited. He shouldn't have to always keep a gun on his hip. That's asinine. And so to that, the awful queen of the right wing, she had a response for that as well. So this is what Dana Loesch had to say on her program.
Castile didn't say that he had a concealed carry permit. He just said he had a gun, it was I think it's a shell informed state. So he was telling him, the officer, that he had a gun. He didn't say that I have my concealed carry permit, and you're supposed to, when you're pulled over. That's why they put you through training, by the way. When you're pulled over, and I've been pulled over carrying a gun. He comes up to the car and I said, "Officer, here's my concealed carry. I am armed. It is in condition 1 right now. And, I have it right here in my console because I couldn't carry it on my person because I was sitting. I have it right here in my console. And I just kept my hands, I even just leaned because I didn't want him to be nervous as well. He doesn't know what he's walking up against. And they just said, make sure your sticker's in the right spot. And that's it. But I told them immediately. What I didn't do was say, I have a gun, and then keep reaching for my waistband 10 times after he told me not to. And that's what happened in the video. And you can scoff at me if you want to for telling you that's what happened in the video, but that's what happened in the video. It made that already nervous new cop even more nervous, and that's why he pulled the trigger. But I'm telling you what, if I would have just told the cop that I had a gun and I was grabbing my waistband 10 times, I'd have gotten shot too. That's what happened. That's why the trigger was pulled.
So now she's resulting to lying, because the video that first came out about Philando Castile, that was after he was shot and killed by the officer. But eventually the dash cam footage did emerge. and it didn't show him reaching for anything 10 times. The officer wanted his registration, his license. That's what he's reaching for. The officer told him, don't reach for your gun. He said, I'm not. He shot him. There was no video footage that showed he was reaching for anything 10 times. He was trying to get exactly what the officer wanted. He wasn't reaching for a gun. And then she said something about, he said that he had a gun, not that he had a concealed carry permit. You know, like I said, she can get an elbow. This is a situation where the true Dana Loesch comes out, where she's not trying to appeal to Black lives at all. Because I guess a Black life was trying to, oppose her.
Oh, she was reaching hard. And I actually went to her Twitter page. Boy, people were going in on her. And one thing that she actually does that that Trump doesn't do, she replies to her tweets. She goes on a back and forth.
Yeah.
Now she gets smashed, but people were just straight smashing her. And she did mention Philando Castile in one of her tweets, but that was not articulated in that clip we just played. She mentioned that Philando Castile was found with drugs on him.
Yes, this was after the fact. Yeah, why would you bring that up? Did that have anything to do with him being murdered? Not a damn thing.
No, it didn't.
Doesn't matter if I don't care if Philando Castile had 10 pounds of coke in his car. Does not matter. That wasn't why he was stopped. It wasn't why the officer killed him. So why bring it up, huh? Why bring it up?
See, again, like you said, it can't be a genuine attempt to appeal to the Black community. And like you said, maybe it is. But it's like the NRA and anyone speaking on their behalf is in a tough position. Now, it's their fault they're in that tough position. Because they're navigating between, I guess, advocating and, I guess, approaching their politics from a very militant right-wing standpoint. And then at the same time, claiming that they represent all. So they put themselves in this position constantly. But yeah, I thought it was funny that she, brought Philando into this.
Yeah,
I think she brought Philando into this without recognizing she did when she was talking about the Amber Geiger situation, because she said law abiding.
Yeah,
that's when, of course, people chimed in and said, "What about Philando Castile?" She realized she had no place to go, so then she had to recreate the situation. So then she wouldn't feel bad about justifying it, or she wouldn't feel bad about being completely wrong.
And then you can bring in the drugs because he's not law abiding.
Yeah, but exactly, he's not law abiding.
Yeah,
but
so this doesn't pertain.
But
to
see,
him.
like if it went down the way she's, I guess, imagining it or thinking it should have gone down, and a way that would have preserved Botham Jean's life. I mean, think about what the headlines would have read: Black man lures white cop to his apartment to murder her. And what would the chief, the police chief, and the mayor actually think about his story? Because what would he say? This officer walked in my apartment for no reason.
And there's no video evidence.
There's no video evidence. Now, and I guarantee you, any police official, the mayor would probably say that story is ludicrous. Why would an officer walk into this man's apartment unannounced and for no reason? They would charge him with first-degree murder and pretty much
open and shut
without bail.
Yeah, she's an awful woman, man. She's an awful, reprehensible woman. That's it, man. Hateful, disgusting woman.
But I mean, shouldn't we all look in the mirror at our faults, Will? That little rant that I did from our last segment was because someone in the comment section instructed us that we should all look in the mirror. That's why I mentioned that in the last story, and that applies here too. I think we all have to look in the mirror, but this chick she needs a house of mirrors.
All right, so let's get into some court cases. Let's go to the Department of Education.
Oh, another win for you're about to we're about to explain how the Trump administration has another win under its belt, right? Is that? Oh,
Taking an L. Taking an L.
Thought that we were at least going to deal with like a W. I can't even make a W. A W.
There you go.
Thought we were going to deal with a W and not an L.
Nah, no. More bad news for the Trump administration. Yeah, sad to say. Sad to say.
Yeah, I have a hard time twisting my hands up in a W for them. I do.
So the Trump administration was dealt another loss on Wednesday when a Washington, D.C. federal court judge ruled in favor of 19 states and the District of Columbia, who brought forth a lawsuit against the Department of Education pertaining to student loans. This lawsuit concerns the borrower defense rule that U.S. District Judge Randolph Malf's rule was improperly delayed by the Department of Education. So in his ruling, well, actually, this is from Bloomberg here. The Obama administration created the rule in the wake of revelations that some for-profit colleges entice students with promises of an education and diplomas that would allow them to get jobs in their chosen fields. In reality, many of those certifications weren't recognized by prospective employers, leaving graduates saddled with student loans they couldn't repay. So this is about the shady practices, the predatory practices of these for-profit colleges and universities. And these students, thinking that they're actually learning something that's going to be useful in the economy, and then actually getting the certificate, the degree, whatever, going out into the world, trying to do good and be like, this is nothing. I can't do anything with this.
Yeah, and they kind of lured them in by almost guaranteeing them that they would have a job.
Right.
That, like almost like we will find a place for you. Mm-hmm. I mean, there are certain majors and vocations that do that, but most of them don't. Most of them don't place you in a job, and they were in some cases making promises that there would be a job ready for them.
And they knew that wasn't true.
And not only that, it was not only was there not a job ready for them, like you said, they weren't even recognized. The degree wasn't even recognized.
Exactly. It was just a piece of paper. It had no weight.
It's actually not just about a prospective job that could, I guess, serve as a roadblock. Mm-hmm. What if they wanted to further their schooling beyond that?
You have to start over.
You have to start the fuck over. You have to start over.
There might be some classes that transfer, but
exactly. You have to start over and still deal with the debt. So not only would you have to start over, you have to pay for more schooling while you're in debt from being defrauded by this other institution.
That's right. So this rule that, like I said, was created under the Obama administration was supposed to create some relief for these defrauded students, right? Enter the Trump administration, enter Betsy DeVos. So the rule was set to go into effect on July 1st, 2017. But Secretary of Education Betsy DeVos, she postponed the effective date to July 1st, 2018. So then at the time, DeVos said that her first priority was to protect students. Yeah, sure. Okay, good. Then in February of this year, 2018, the effective date was once again postponed to July 1st, 2019.
I wonder what she's doing there. I wonder what she's doing
2017, 2018, and then go to 2019.
And when do most enrollments happen? When do most enrollments happen?
Usually in the summer, right?
Summertime and during the summertime.
That
fall enrollment, boy, that's crazy.
Right.
She's trying to pretty much kick the can every year.
This is exactly what she's doing. She doesn't want to provide leave to these defrauded students, and that's basically what it is. Even forget her rhetoric talking about she wants to protect students. No, that's not reality. What she wants to do is cut costs. She doesn't want to provide these students with any type of situation where they are afforded like something that's going to actually be to the betterment of their lives. Oh, no. You were defrauded? Suck it up. Get over it.
And she's doing a favor for her buddies, too.
No doubt, of course.
You know what I'm saying?
Because she's all about that profit.
She's all about that profit.
But Judge Moss, again, he ruled that the delaying of these regulations deprived students, quote, of several concrete benefits that they would have otherwise accrued. So Judge Moss said that there will be a hearing on Friday to discuss remedies. So this is very good news for these affected students because, again, I don't even know how many there were. I don't know how many there were, but again, this is 19 states and the District of Columbia. So this is very substantial. This was a very substantial lawsuit. I'm glad that they won it. And I'm glad that the Trump administration had to take a loss on this. Because, again, you shouldn't be able to get away with predatory, loan activities. You shouldn't be able to defraud students saying that, hey, all you got to do is get this degree and you're going to make a buttload of money. You're going to be able to buy a house and a car and live your life and live the American dream. Go out there and do it.
Actually,
you shouldn't be able to you shouldn't be able to lie to people.
Okay, that's okay.
You know what I'm saying?
That's the part. That's the
part.
part. It's like I don't necessarily disagree with that approach. Now, if it's done in a very pie in the sky, corny way, regardless of what institution people apply to, I don't like that. But I don't mind institutions advertising in that way.
Yeah, but when you know the certificate is worthless,
then it becomes
not being recognized,
like a fraud issue.
Yeah, exactly.
So,
and this is the government doing it. Well, this is the government letting it happen. Let me say that this is the government letting it happen.
And then when there's an opportunity to rectify the issue, we have someone who tries to roll back, I guess, recommendations from the past administration so this can continue. But again, I'll say it over and over again. I am not surprised. I do think it's ironic that this lawsuit occurred. And the Secretary of Education is at the forefront of this lawsuit. In this particular administration, it's kind of funny. The Trump administration. The reason why it's funny is because Trump University went through something similar.
You had to bring that up, man.
I think that's why it's not surprising.
Yeah.
Because Trump University went through something similar, but I think it was worse. They were like extorting a lot more cash.
Yeah, they were.
They were extorting a lot more cash from people. They were exploiting the same type of desire.
It was pretty much the same practice.
It's pretty much the same practice. They were like saying like, you're going to get not only like this education, you are going to get a leg up in the business world. We're going to give you all these packets. You're going to be basically like, just like Trump, rich.
Yeah. Like this was supposed to be a prestigious learning atmosphere that was going to really set you up ahead of everybody else so you can get success. So you can become successful. Man, please, man, get out of here, man. So, this should really be, again, if the individual that was responsible for that is in the White House, it should be no surprise that individual's administration is going to allow other institutions to do the same damn thing.
Because he did it with his own institution. And he almost got away with it.
Yeah.
Because was it the Attorney General of Florida who just so happened to send his campaign some money?
A little bit of money.
Just so happened to,
Well, actually, no.
They sent her.
They sent her money.
They sent her money,
right?
And then she said,
she dropped it.
We're gonna drop that lawsuit.
Yep, that's correct.
So maybe
and she appeared and campaigned, like campaign stops with them.
Maybe Betsy felt that hey, Trump got away with it. Now maybe I can kick the bucket.
Yeah,
not the can, because this is a big ass bucket.
It's a big 19 states. 19 states and DC. But again, that's a loss, so that's a good loss. So let's talk about another. This isn't a court case. This is just a change that's being done, rolling back some Obama era regulations. So, excuse me. The Trump administration is making moves to make it easier for companies to release methane into the air. The oil and gas industry has complained that Obama-era mandates meant to address climate change are financially burdensome and unnecessary. The EPA has said that rolling back these mandates would save the industry $484 million over 6 years, so you know that Trump is all about that business. This is from Time. The oil and gas industry is the leading source of methane, an intense but short-lived greenhouse gas shown to warm the atmosphere 84 times more than carbon dioxide when measured over 2 decades. Under the EPA's drafted proposal, energy companies would have to search for leaks at high-producing wells annually instead of twice a year as required under the 2016 rule. Very low-producing wells, known as marginal wells, would have to be inspected once every 2 years. In addition, the EPA would relax the current requirement to investigate possible leaks at gas compressor stations quarterly, shifting to a semi-annual timetable. And the repair times, the allowable repair times under this proposal from the EPA, it would double it. So under the 2016 rule, you have 30 days to fix the methane leaks. Well, now you would have 60. So, of course, that would mean that it's a lower priority and more methane would be able to seep into the air and the atmosphere will be able to, get warmer and warmer and warmer. That, of course, leads to global warming and climate change.
More severe weather patterns.
Yes. Health conditions, too, because, of course, that's going to lead to poor air quality and pollution in the air. So, this isn't good news.
It's probably going to affect wildlife, not just like when you're talking about standstill, environmental fixtures like plants, plant life, but it's going to affect, animals too.
Right.
I've always thought it was amazing that these industries make money off of the earth's resources, but disregard taking care of the earth that they benefit from. That's always been like that's blown my mind. It just seems so backwards.
It doesn't kind of. This is exactly what they feel. Like, the earth is not our responsibility to take of. The earth is our responsibility to make a profit off of. See, we have to take advantage of the earth. We're not supposed to protect the earth.
Oh, so it's almost...
Use it up. Rape it.
So it's almost like we pimping it.
Yes.
It's like we pimping it.
And this is a statement from Andrew Wheeler, who is the EPA's acting administrator. He said these common sense reforms will alleviate unnecessary and duplicative red tape and give the energy sector the regulatory certainty it needs to continue providing affordable and reliable energy to the American people. That's great. That's great. See, we need more reliability. We need to cut this red tape. We need to deregulate. When you're talking about the environment, when you're talking about climate change, when you're talking about air quality, all of these,
health,
like when you deregulate, so what you're deregulating is the industry, and you're allowing companies to engage in bad behavior so that they can make more profit. Again, this will lead to the industry saving $484 million over 6 years. Now, there are some companies within the within the oil and gas industry who are aggressively, fixing these methane leaks, and they're taking that they're taking that responsibility on their own, like they're doing it willingly. But there are also other companies that are like, we want to save money. Well, profit is number one to us. That's the whole reason we're in this business, because we can make so much profit. And we have a president that is actually going to be supportive of us making a profit, and and keeping the environment as like a number two.
Well, I mean,
or number three.
Isn't that kind of a way of supporting freedom? I mean, you know what I'm saying? Like, it sounds like you're trying to kind of talk down to people's freedom to breathe smoggy air. It seems like you're talking down.
Freedom
it just
to do
like
that.
Exactly. It seems like you're talking down to that, man. Like you.
It does seem like that. It really does seem like that.
It's kind of like the story we did. I think it was it wasn't last show, but it was last week. With rolling back safety requirements at work.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Yeah. You're taking away my ability to get hurt.
That's what they said, because it allows people to dictate their own terms on work so they can make more money and not have to worry about following these stupid safety protocols. They don't. You know what? They might open themselves up to a lawsuit, man.
Yeah. yeah, I think so. But see, look, this is nothing new. Again, this is a situation where we are terribly unsurprised by the action of this administration, because this is the administration that withdrew the United States from the the Paris Agreement, which we're the only country on the face of the earth to withdraw ourselves from that agreement, and that agreement was to cut down on the greenhouse gas emissions, to, like I said, like cut down every country's greenhouse gas emissions, because all the countries recognize that climate change is an actual thing, and we must address it because it is caused by human activity. So we got to do something. Trump is like, let's pull it out, right? Also about just recently, there was a week ago, the pesticide, but also the vehicle emission standard.
Oh yeah,
he's rolling that back as well. So this is something where I know
the coal company thing, or
the coal company,
they can
that's
dump
right.
waste.
They can dump. There's so many things.
I know. I've lost track.
But see, this is, I guess it brings me to this. Like, I know the narrative out there is that former President Barack Obama did nothing. That's not true. Now, we can all agree that former President Barack Obama could have done much, much, much more. And I totally agree with that statement. But I think being in the current or being in the time of the current administration, the Trump administration, and him rolling back all these Obama era regulations, all these Obama era rules that maybe not a lot of people actually paid attention to. Like, not a lot of people actually said, like, that's actually a good step. Like, we can go farther, but that's actually a good step because it's better than what we were doing. Like, I don't think that really got the attention that I think it probably deserved.
Oh, okay, I understand. So, like, I guess most people's focus was how he went light skinned on all the issues.
Exactly. Yeah. But like I say, I won't say that he did nothing. There's so much criticism of him, and it's so warranted. It's valid, no doubt. I agree with all of that. But as you can see, his objective is to roll back everything Obama did, and especially in a conversation about the environment.
And you know what he does, right? I think there's a little bit of it's a little ego driven, but I think he overplays that. I think we all overplay that, and it's like, oh, he's just trying to kind of roll back everything Obama did because he can't stand the fact that Obama became president before him and Obama's black. I think that's overplayed a bit. I'm like, we can definitely point out some instances and issues that Trump has in regards to how he sees non-white people. That's like an unmistakable quality of Donald Trump. But I think we overplay like that hand as far as how he sees Obama. Even with the birther thing, he just hates people who speak better than him, who are more successful than him, who are more articulate than him. He just hates. I honestly don't think it's about Obama per se. It's just him appealing to the class of people that he wants to, and that's rich and wealthy people. That's what it's about primarily. I don't even think it's about Obama. I think it's probably a little bit of it, but that's his personality already. It's just more about he's ego driven, but it's more about handing a favor to those people that can profit, his buddies, his friends, himself. So, you know what I'm saying? These moves and these rollbacks of Obama era policies, I think for the most part, he's being patted on the back by, the fossil fuel industry.
And see, everybody needs love, right? Everybody needs love, right? But it's important who you're loved by. It's very important who you love by. He's trying to be loved by those individuals that you just talked about right there. So that's bad for the country. That's bad for this world. That's really bad, man. So this isn't set to take place immediately. There's going to be a public comment period for 60 days, but I don't think that time period has not started yet. And there's going to be a public hearing on the issue in Denver as well, and I don't know exactly when that's going to be. So again, like. This is a bad situation. Representative Frank Pallone of New Jersey, who's a Democrat, he said EPA's move to weaken common sense and cost-effective requirements for oil and gas operations to find and repair leaks in a timely manner undermines critical public health protections from harmful pollutants like methane, benzene, and volatile organic compounds. So he's doing this all at the risk of severely harming American citizens' lives, not just Democratic lives, but Republican lives as well. Methane ain't gonna be choosy.
You know what? Now that you mention it, like, it's almost like that's how people think. Like, we're going to support this individual. In this case, is Trump, but it's not just Trump, because people do it with all, a manner of representatives. But this idea that their policies won't affect them, especially the bad ones. especially the bad ones. You're like, it's like
Democrats are mad because of what it's gonna do to them.
I'm like, nah, dog. That's gonna touch you too.
Exactly. You live in the environment.
It's almost like the other side, of the good policies that are pushed by progressives, and they are kind of I guess talked down to, as if those policies that progressives push won't affect everybody. Right. Like, they're making it seem like you're just pushing that because it's going to benefit you. I'm like, that's not how it works. It's not how it works. So in that same regard, same thing. Exactly. In regards to all that negative stuff, they can unconditionally support these representatives all they want, but I guarantee you that small gonna hit them. The small gonna hit them the same way. You know what I'm saying?
It ain't gonna be like circling through the air, be like,
you know what? Damn,
right, I see red. I'm not going that way.
I'm not going that way. Those people voted for the people. Those people voted for the candidates, or not just for the candidates, but for the representatives that made those decisions. So we're not gonna affect those areas. That's not how nature operates.
No, that's not how pollutants operate. All right, let's go to Andy Hallinan, man. That's this is a good laugh. We're about to get a good laugh right here.
Right here.
All right, so Andy Hallinan, owner of Florida Gun Supply, was interviewed in an episode of Rest in Power, the Trayvon Martin story, which is a 6-part documentary series about the life and death of Trayvon Martin in 2012. Hallinan insisted that the Confederate flag was not a racist symbol and provided some reasoning.
I completely understand that people think the Confederate flag to be a racist symbol, but the vast majority of people believe that it's a symbol of heritage. It's a symbol of our history that people think is associated with the South, and the South was fighting for slavery. That's a common misconception about what actually took place. When you study the history, that was one thing that the war was about. People don't go to war for one issue. I mean, I'm not a historian. I mean, you're putting me on the spot for something
So we got one thing that the war is about, slavery. What are two other things that the war is about?
The Confederate, in general, the war was about tyranny.
What does tyranny mean?
Tyranny is any time a government overreaches and they control a life too much.
Like slavery.
Oh man, that is priceless. His reaction. I mean, like, you didn't come to the interview prepared.
No, you knew you was gonna do this. You knew you
were gonna talk about the Confederate flag.
You knew you were gonna talk about.
You knew you was gonna rep it and back it up and be like, it's not racist.
I would have been fine. If he had like notes right there, like stuff written. I'm like, I don't even care if you remember them, like off the top of your head.
Because history's complicated, right?
But he's not a historian, William. He's not a historian. I'm no historian. Like, but it's funny, dog. It's like the fact that when he's like, the fact that there were two statements that are close together. The two statements were, if you study history, and then he said, like, literally 2 seconds later, I'm not a historian. I'm like,
so you're touting history to back up your reasoning, but I don't know the history. Like, come on, you got to talk to somebody else.
Yo, like,
what?
Like, when I saw his face after the interviewer asked him that question, well, I knew he was gonna bomb. You knew he was gonna bomb. You knew he was gonna bomb.
Oh man, like I said, that's absolutely priceless, man. I always love it when people like him, and like this is a hateful, this is a hateful figure. This was the dude that, well, he, like I said, he owns that gun store, the Florida Gun Supply, which is like Muslim free. This was the same guy that he was banned from YouTube over his anti-Muslim views. This was the same guy that he got, well, I don't know if he got it or what. I don't know whose idea it was or not, but Trayvon Martin's killer, George Zimmerman, helped him, helped to pay his legal bills when he was sued for his espousing his views, his religious discrimination. So this is this hateful dude. But like, I'm always interested in the narrative that the Confederate flag is not racist. I'm always interested in people like trying to take a ride back into history and be like, well, it was actually about this. See, like it was tyranny. No, it was like this. It was states' rights. It was this. It was that. Right. But everybody that engages in that type of lunacy, you're trying to speak for the people that have already spoken. People that lived back then in the 1860s, they already spoke for themselves. If you actually read...
What people? Say what people.
Well, like, before we even get to a specific person, if you actually read the Articles of Succession of all the states that actually was like, nope, as soon as President Abraham Lincoln was elected, they were like, you know what? Nope, we're out. South Carolina was the first state. If you read these articles, they said it for themselves many, many, many times over again. The reason was slavery.
Wait. So you're talking about the representatives? Representatives.
Yes, the officials of these states.
Of the state. Wouldn't kind of their word be more legit than the word of some random Confederate flag wearing, flying person 150 years later?
Exactly. These were the people that actually carried out the decision to be like, you know what, Union, peace, we're out. We want slavery, and you want to try to take it from us? Nope, we're out. We need slavery. So you're trying to engage in
revisionism, but the bad kind of revisionism.
The bad, man. It's absolutely crazy.
So
man.
that's kind of a very important point to make, because like, it's not just about them being delusional about like history and what actually happened. It's not about them just being wrong as far as informationally.
No.
They are kind of trying to recontextualize the words and the beliefs and the position of people they never met.
Right. The people that made it.
The people that
crystal
made it
clear.
The people that made the position about the war official.
Right.
You see what I'm saying? Like, why would you try to recontextualize their words and their reasons and their attitude that they have expressed and is actually in history books?
Exactly. Like,
history
they
books.
were actually a part of it. They actually made their positions known. They actually either said it out loud in front of people, or they actually wrote it down for it to be provided for generation after generation after generation. One such individual that we'll talk about is Alexander Stephens, who was the vice president of the Confederate States. And there was a famous speech that he had given one time. This was in 1861, I believe. 1861? Wasn't that around the time of the Civil War? I think it was. See,
That was close.
that was close, right?
That's real close.
Yeah,
That's real close.
actually, this speech that he delivered, the cornerstone speech, it was it was March 21st, 1861. It was just a few weeks before the actual war started, when the Confederacy actually fired upon Fort Sumter right here in South Carolina. So in this speech, he begins, the new Constitution has put at rest forever all the agitating questions relating to our peculiar institutions, African slavery as it exists among us, the proper status of the Negro in our form of civilization. This was the immediate cause of the late rupture and present revolution. Really, I didn't have to read the whole thing. The last sentence is as explicit as it needs to be. This was the cause of the late rupture and present revolution. They left because of slavery.
You have a scratching?
And then later on in the speech, Alexander Stephens went on to say that, he tried to rebuff the idea that he disagreed with the idea that all men were created equal. He says, Our new government is founded upon exactly the opposite ideas. Its foundations are laid, its cornerstone rests upon the great truth that the Negro is not equal to the white man, that slavery, subordination to the superior race, is his natural and normal condition. This, our new government, is the first in the history of the world, based upon this great philosophical and moral truth. This truth has been slow in the process of its development, like all other truths in the various departments of science.
So,
is that not clear?
So,
is that not clear?
Why do they feel the need to cherish and respect all the symbols from that time, all the individuals from that time? Why do they feel the need to do that if it is clear what the Confederacy represented? It's clear why the Confederacy had issues with the North.
It's so clear, right? And like I said, it's not about us trying to understand what the issues are. It's just about us actually hearing it or reading it, because they laid out the case for themselves. We don't need to interpret what their words mean. They were clear. And I know that the Confederate flag did not represent the entirety of the Confederate States of America. I know that. We all know that. But that flag did represent a certain legion, right? It was a flag that was propped up by a legion in the Confederate States of America,
it was more
right?
Like a war flag.
It was but it wasn't a war flag that was on the side of the Union. It was a war flag that was on the side of the Confederacy.
And what the Confederacy was trying to save and preserve.
Exactly. So if you create that symbol under this institution, then that's what it means. You can't take away, you can't pick and choose what it means, because it was crafted because of the institution it was in.
My question still stands. Like, why feel the need to cherish those symbols? Why feel the need to hold these things up in a way that they feel should be respected, not just by them, but by everyone, by us? You see what I'm saying? So, like, what again?
Why?
Why do they feel the need to do that?
Because white supremacy is alive and strong.
But see, that's not. See. That's that. I guarantee you, that is going to be straight Heisman.
Oh, I know it.
That's going to be.
I definitely know it.
That's going to be Heisman.
Look, man, we grew up here, right? We've seen this going to school. I have memories of students back in middle school wearing the shirts and being confused, like what you don't know? So I'm 13 years old and I know what the hell is going on here. What the hell is going on with you?
See, in that instance, you're suggesting that they don't know what's going on. I think there's a part of them that does know what's going on. I think they know exactly what's going on. They know exactly what that represents. And
or they'd have to be like Officer Gaillard and just completely
ignore
so many pieces of information.
And again, that's the answer to my question right there. I think they do know. And I think they do know what's at stake here. And holding on to those symbols and holding on to that time period in a way that distorts history gives them an opportunity to feel good about that, I guess, the notion of white supremacy and holding on to it. That is the only reason why you would hold on to those symbols and cherish those symbols and respect those symbols and think those symbols represent anything other than hate, because you still have that internalized idea of white people and white supremacy, and you haven't dealt with that yet. That's the only reason why you would kind of, I guess, revise history in that way. And actually not even just revise history, just completely ignore it.
Completely, like the argument about it being prideful, the argument about it being
white pride. Oh, my bad. Go ahead.
But see, that's not what they say. That's not what they say.
I just as soon as I said that, I was thinking about Dave Chappelle. White power.
But I'm saying, like, the idea that this is because of heritage, the idea that this is
white heritage, white supremacy.
But that's
heritage.
not what they say.
I'm just throw that up in there every time you say.
I'm just saying, like, they leave it as a very empty statement. It's about pride. It's about heritage. It's about recognizing your ancestors. It's about all that. But I'm like, hold on.
White dominance. White ancestors.
Like, none of that stuff is good. Like none of that stuff is good. So if you're like savoring that moment, what the hell does that say about you? Like, I understand that, like, there are people in like my lineage that they were probably awful people. I'm sure of it. I mean, I think every family, if you go back in time, you're gonna find at least one person who's like, man, that was a true son of a bitch right there. Like that dude, I don't want to have nothing to do with that dude. Like, if somewhere in my lineage there's some like murderous, raping individual, am I going to be proud of who he was just because he was a tie to me? Just because I have his blood? No, I'm not going to be repping him. So why are you repping these people that were supportive of brutally enslaving people just because of the color of their skin? Because of heritage? Nope.
But again, your boy just bombed. On that interview
on TV,
on TV, like, dude, this was your chance.
Yeah,
here's your chance. Do your dance. Here's your chance. Do your dance. He
you got the camera,
he
man.
Had the floor and the camera, and all I heard was the Jeopardy song.
Oh my
I was
gosh,
like, doo, and like you saw his eyes, and I could actually, I felt like his head was like completely transparent, and I saw like a bunch of crickets like chirping. I was like, you look like a fool.
Shit, why
did I damn it? I was like, why did I agree with this?
See,
man?
I knew what my talking point was, but I didn't know how to explain my talking point. Damn it. I'm not a historian. It's about tyranny. You mean like enslaving black people?
That's kind of funny how they mentioned tyranny while ignoring the fact that black people were facing the tyranny. Like, you know what I'm saying? That's the biggest irony, man, how you can bring up it was about tyranny while ignoring the fact that black bodies were being used to promote a tyrannical agenda, a tyrannical lifestyle.
A tyrannical government.
A tyrannical government that enslaved them. That's tyranny. How do they flip that?
But you fight back against tyranny, though.
How do you flip that? How do you flip that pancake, man? You can't do that.
Yo, it's crazy, man. Again, like you said, this was a chance to actually speak to people, but he came unprepared. But you know what? There was no amount of preparing that he could have done.
We said basically it wouldn't have mattered. But at least
he wouldn't have looked as dumb as.
But at least if you have that platform, like, you could have come up with something.
Like I said, this is the reason why. Like, if you know the history, this is why you can't ever lose this argument, because history has already spoken. All right, the people that were involved in slavery, they have spoken. Do you understand? You can't remake their words. You can't create the narrative for them because they already spoke for themselves. That's under 1% though. I ain't gonna report on that.
Yeah, I know.
That's under 1%.
And I don't even actually. I think it's more than that because that just started coming in.
Yeah,
it was all zeros. I went to Vox and I went to New York Times, and 5 minutes ago it was all zeros.
Yeah, me too. Yeah. All right. Yeah, that's just about the New York primary.
We ain't gonna say nothing yet.
Yeah,
we're gonna wait till about 30 more minutes.
Yeah,
40 more minutes.
The precinct closed at 8. Numbers are starting to come in, but it's very early, so we're not even gonna get into it. It'd be way too premature. We got one more. Well, actually, we got a couple more. But let me to end the show. We'll do this one, and then we'll open it up for callers. Former President Jimmy Carter and his wife Rosie, they both supported Senator Bernie Sanders in 2016. They did not support the centrist and the incrementalist Hillary Clinton. They did this knowing of the platform of Senator Bernie Sanders. They did this knowing that the platform of Senator Bernie Sanders was very progressive. It included things like Medicare for all. It included things like tuition-free colleges and universities at public institutions. It also included raising the federal minimum wage to $15 an hour. They knew all of this. But recently, on Tuesday, former President Jimmy Carter was in Atlanta at his post-presidential center and library, and he warned the Democratic Party not to go too far to the left. Specifically, Carter discouraged the Democratic Party from making a, quote, move to a very liberal program like universal health care. Again, Carter knew what the agenda of Bernie Sanders was in 2016 was universal health care. It was single payer, it was Medicare for all. But now in 2018, with the midterms approaching, former President Jimmy Carter has a different tune. And he kind of tried to explain his position here. I guess explain his rationale. He said that the Democratic Party has to appeal to independents who are increasingly withdrawing their support from President Donald Trump and the Republican Party. And so he wanted to be clear that he wasn't urging progressives to lose their identity. He wasn't urging progressives to sacrifice their ideology and the specific policies that they want to see implemented to actually pave way for the betterment of many of us here in the United States of America. No, he just said that if you do want a future and to where these policies are actually implemented, you have to put Democrats in office, because the only politicians that will actually address those concerns are politicians within the Democratic Party.
But see, the problem is he mentioned that Democrats need to attract independents. Mm-hmm. And if we're looking at what typical independents do and where their positioning is, it's set to be on the fence, right? Mm-hmm. So why would any independents go over to the Trump side during 2016 election? Why would they do that? What was the Democratic Party's agenda? Of course, once Hillary Clinton became the nominee, that she became the face of the party, party's representative for president. So what does their agenda look like? Their agenda looks like her.
Right.
So those independents, which honestly I think he overstated, because if you actually look at how many people voted and how many people sat out, there's a lot of people who sat out and didn't vote. So I think like him mentioning Trump is a bit of an overstatement. If you look at the numbers, like most of the people who voted for John McCain, or most of the people who voted for President Bush or Mitt Romney or whoever else voted for Trump. There wasn't just this rush of independents that just scuttled very quickly to Trump. Most of them probably didn't even vote. Mm-hmm. Now, why would they not vote? They didn't go to either side. Now, the Democrats were running a very centrist campaign.
Right.
Now, is he expecting all of a sudden these independents to kind of change their approach or change their vision of the Democratic Party? You see what I'm saying? So the Democratic Party needs to maintain their centrist path. That's going to get these independents back. I don't think they're going to get anybody or much of the voters from Trump. I think the point of the Democratic Party and who they should be attracting is the people that didn't vote. And to me, if his recommendation is to not go left, that is just playing into the hands of Republicans and kind of, I guess, giving credence to the strategy that we talk about every day, talk about negatively.
Yes. I feel like he was coming from a place where, like, of course we know that President Trump's approval numbers are what they are. They're in the 30s. They're always in the 30s. I think at one point they were in the 40s, the low 40s, but right now I believe they're back in the 30s. So I think what he believes is that Trump only has so much of a loyal base. The other people that ended up voting for him in 2016 may not be loyal to him. They just may have seen that Hillary Clinton was a bridge too far for whatever reasons, right? So maybe they don't feel like, or maybe he feels like these particular voters, universal health care, Medicare for all, that might be a bridge too far. Increasing the minimum wage to $15 an hour, killing ICE, just different type of progressive policies that progressive candidates want to see accomplished, progressive voters want to see accomplished. That might be a bridge too far. What we need to do as a constituency, or no, not as a constituency, what we need to do as a political party, the Democratic Party, don't talk about that right now. Don't go that far right now. Once you're elected into office, then we can get into that, because it's only going to be Democrats that actually address those concerns. We know Republicans aren't going to do it. It's only going to be possible within the Democratic Party. But to that, like what I hear that as, you remember Barney Frank? Mm-hmm. You remember Barney Frank? Mm-hmm. Barney Frank in 2015 and in 2016 talked mad shit about Senator Bernie Sanders. He shitted on his whole campaign and said that the problem with, Obama's tenure as president was that in the midterm elections, people didn't show up. So that allowed the Republicans to take control of the House and the Senate. So if you want progress, you got to show up and vote for the Democratic Party. That's how progress gets made. That's how we actually implement all of these progressive ideas. But somehow that doesn't seem to be true, because we've had a Democratic president before. We've had supermajorities before. And for some reason, progressive policies always get pushed to the wayside. It happened under Barack Obama, even though he was talking up a very progressive agenda when he was running for president. So it can't be that we just need to elect more Democrats and that's it. It matters what the Democrat is. It matters what the Democrat is pushing. And if you're asking the Democratic Party to be like, oh, I'm a Heisman, all of these progressive ideas, and you're asking the constituency to be like, oh yeah, okay, well that's okay. We know that when you get into office though, you're going to address our concerns. Do you really believe that?
Basically, it sounds like you're saying that this is not really a new argument.
No, it's very old.
Again, it's like, even with much respect to Jimmy Carter, mm-hmm. It does seem like the same argument we have been hearing this entire time. And maybe he's banking on the notion that Trump is so bad that Democrats don't have to run left to get those independent voters.
That could be true.
That could be true. He's like, well, he's banking on the fact that Trump is fucking up so much. Hey, let's not lose ourselves and go too left because we may not have to. But I'm not sure if that's a good long game. Yeah. I don't think that's a good long game strategy based on the political climate we're in now. You see what I'm saying? With a lot of leftist policies gaining a lot of steam. I just don't see that kind of outlook making any kind of sense. And another reason why this kind of puts a bad taste in my mouth is because he endorsed Stacey Abrams. Jimmy Carter endorsed Stacey Abrams. Now, based on what he said in these recent statements, he's almost saying that policies that Stacey Abrams support shouldn't be supported anymore.
Yeah.
That's why it rubs me the wrong way. I'm like, you can't throw support for Stacey Abrams so recently and then now come out and say, don't go too left. Like, I mean, again, his intentions may be good, but he's completely wrong on this. He's completely wrong on this. I know he's probably scared, and I know him being president, which most people, I was about to say neither of us have, but most people on the planet don't get the chance to be president. So I guess he's looking at it from a particular vantage point. So he probably has a certain level of, I guess, ownership he feels he has to assert in regard to criticizing the president, because he was in that position and he sees it and he sees how awful it's being represented. So he probably has more of his heart in it. You know what I'm saying? So he's probably probably a little bit more set aside than we are, since he was in that position. And maybe that's clouding his judgment. I'm not going to go out on a limb and say they pushed him to say this. I don't know. We can't say that. But it just seems very timely.
Think about this. In his statements, now we don't have the full transcript of all of his statements,
right?
But we do have some of it, right? Nowhere I read, like nowhere in the context that was provided did I see anything about money in politics. I didn't see anything about corruption. So think about this. Most people, most voters, forget just everybody that lives in the United States of America. Most voters, the people that actually activate themselves and go to a precinct, either get a paper ballot or get on one of those machines and actually cast their vote, most of them are followers. Okay? Most of them are followers. Trump's base, you know them to be the utmost followers, because it doesn't matter what he says, it doesn't matter what comes out, he still has their support. And I don't know if it's the exact same thing on the other side, but it's probably damn near close. So we know that most voters are going to be followers. So no matter what that political party chooses to endorse, they're going to have the full backing of their base. So if the Democratic Party actually wanted to advocate for the best interests of humanity, the best interests of the citizens that are here in the United States of America, and they actually wanted to promote progressive policies, you think the constituency would be like, no, we're gonna just no, you lost us, sorry, we can't do it anymore. No, because they would see that my goodness, wow, you're actually, you're going above and beyond to actually advocate for us. You're actually addressing the concerns of it. Okay, this is the direction we're gonna be going. Okay, we know that progressive policies actually work. Like, even campaigning for them works. What doesn't work, though, or let me see, what doesn't work so often is when progressive policies go up against establishment techniques. Because with establishment techniques in politicians, they have money. They have money and corruption. They're allowed, or not allowed, they're able to get their message out at a wider level than a progressive politician, because they're not taking that money from corporations. They don't have super PACs. So it's not that policies are losing, it's that the reach isn't the same.
You mentioned money in politics and how that was omitted from his strategy and his critique. Is that a blight on him? Be honest. Is that a blight on him, or is that something he's overlooking? You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, I don't.
Again, I was like, in respect to him and the Carter Center and what they do, and how they focus on human rights, resolving conflicts through peace, fighting disease, all that. Is that a blight that he's not bringing that up? I guess it's hard to kind of focus criticism on him because he's such a sweet guy.
He's a very nice individual.
He's a very nice, like Andy Griffith show.
Very
type,
respected.
Very respected. But like, I think maybe my pessimistic side still has to view like what real impact did he have on the imperial agenda of the United States. It's still there. I think like we do like to hoist, like I guess, Jimmy Carter up as someone who is a little bit different than most presidents, and I mean he was. I mean he definitely was. He like didn't he like put solar panels on the White House or some junk like that?
Did he?
Yeah, I think he did something like that. You know, he worked a lot with Habitat for Humanity. He did a lot of good things, but I think sometimes that just makes us feel good. You know what I'm saying? We just kind of put him up there, and it kind of makes us feel good about living in a fucked up country. You know what I'm saying?
Like you said, is it a blight?
In this instance, especially stepping in to this environment, this environment where like people are very polarized right now, and just issuing some sort of simplistic command saying vote Democrat, vote for a Democrat regardless. That this seems very, let's say,
short-sighted.
Not just short-sighted. It just seems like that is a very unsophisticated like position to take. You would think somebody like him, who almost spent his entire career separating himself from the typical politician and representative, you would think that he would kind of like take it a little bit further, seeing as how he's regarded. I think that, again, I'm not saying somebody talked to him, I'm not saying he was put up to this, but I just do think that he is the perfect face to use. He is the perfect sympathetic face to use for the Democratic Party, seeing as they're lacking in a lot of sympathetic faces right now. And even Obama couldn't, I don't think Obama could move the needle on that. People saw through like what he was trying to do.
See, in this conversation, you have to note the different endorsements that he's made. Like you said, Stacey Abrams, and going back to 2016, Bernie Sanders. What was something that Bernie Sanders talked about all the time? Corruption. He talked about money in politics. He talked about Citizens United. He talked about these things. He talked about Wall Street. So for Jimmy Carter to endorse Bernie Sanders and to be okay with what he's saying, and to now it seems like he's ignoring the reality that money in politics actually plays within our system, within our political system, and say that all we got to do is
vote blue, and we're going to get progressive policies. Yeah, see, so it's like kind of any regard for him kind of may have to take a hit, man. You know what I'm saying?
And don't go too far left too.
My thing is that's kind of funny because like if you look at if you go to his website, the Carter Center, and look at all of their focuses and all of the issues that they deal with and highlight and advocate for, that is some leftist ass shit.
I know.
That's some leftist ass shit. Like everything about his center and what they seek to do across the world and how they seek to rectify certain problems that, you know, spring up. That junk is leftist. I just think that's ironic. Maybe he's not connecting the two.
But if he's saying in 2018 that as a political party, the Democratic Party, don't go too far left, why didn't he say the exact same thing in 2016? Because clearly that was not his message. If he wanted to say don't go too far left, he would have thrown all of his support behind Hillary Clinton, who was campaigning on that idea.
The entire time.
We can't do this. We can't go that far.
But see, again.
But he went with Bernie Sanders.
But again, this is the midterms. I think, you know, a lot of people will say, well, it's the midterm, so it's different. So he's just trying to make sure there's a wave of Democrats so we can have the best chance at kind of stalling this Trump administration agenda. Maybe that's going to be people's take on why he's, I guess, arriving at this position. But I think that's, no matter what the take is, no matter what the motive is, it's still a bit short-sighted and unsophisticated, and the very thing we have been talking against since Hillary Clinton lost. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know, man. I wonder if people like him actually connect the dots as to why men in his position, especially former presidents, have to start foundations and charities after they leave office. You know what I'm saying? Like, why do they even have to do that? Seems like they're trying to like manage the fallout from the situations that power and greed create. You know what I'm saying? Like, do they create all this stuff outside of office, but the government that they presided over doesn't represent any of that stuff. Ain't that some, you know what I'm saying?
So what void are you trying to fill?
Like, why do we even need all these foundations and centers? Why the need to even establish that? You know what I'm saying? Like, it seems like the United States creates the need for, you know, individuals like him to perform these cleanup efforts after they leave office. Hey, we're going to destabilize the planet. So what we need you to do is, after you get out of office, form these foundations and these centers to help, you know, clean up this shit.
All right, so we got through with the layout for this show. What we're going to do now is open it up for callers, and the number to call in is 669-900-6833. We want to hear from you. Anything that we have addressed on this show today, or maybe the last show, or anything that's going on right now, please give us a call. Again, we want to hear your opinions. We want to hear your comments. We just want to hear from a different vantage point. So definitely give us a call, 669-900-6833. We are looking at the New York primary election results, and as of right now, for governor, it's been called. Andrew Cuomo looks like he's going to win that Democratic primary. At least that is what the New York Times is saying. 24% reporting, and right now he's at about 66% of the vote.
I will say, you know, even though she's getting blown out, you know what I'm saying, this is a first quarter blowout. I mean, 25% of the precincts have reported, and he has about 2 times as many votes. And even with that, I am kind of very proud of Cynthia Nixon, because you're going up against a political juggernaut. You're going up against essentially a dynasty, a political dynasty.
He had a large trunk of cash that he could use for this campaign. Millions and millions of dollars. And of course, like I said, people that are trying to push progressive policies, trying not to be corrupt, they're going to start from a losing position, because their reach is not going to be as far as an establishment candidate like Andrew Cuomo.
I mean,
so it's going to make it that much harder to actually overtake them.
I mean, you asked that question, I guess, when we were talking about Jimmy Carter and kind of him reflecting upon Trump's presidency and independent voters and whatnot. And you mentioned something about people being followers. And you did say it's probably like that on the other side. And this kind of is a kind of an indication of that. They may be following for a different reason, but it still amounts to following.
Yeah.
And, you know, and like you said, he had a treasure chest of funds.
No doubt.
Almost endless. And her visibility is pretty much a fraction of his. So people tend to follow what they see, unfortunately.
Exactly. The sides are different, but the same. You know, the tactics are different, but the same. You know, the support is unconditional at times. So that's why I say there's no reasoning behind a political party like these two juggernauts that we have in the United States of America. There's no reason. I mean, there's no authentic reason. Or, you know what? No, can't say authentic. There's no moral reason for them to actually push aside programs and policies that will actually serve the best interest of us. The only reason they do it is because of profit. That's the only reason.
And they don't have to.
And they don't have to, because
they don't
like
have to.
Unconditional support either way.
They're not being pushed to it. So even when they kind of rhetorically advocate for it, they truly don't have to push for it when, you know, that pen meets that paper. When it comes time for them to maybe co-sign something beneficial, they don't have to, because they're not kind of held accountable for it. So yeah, they can speak about it. It's crazy how it was kind of like just started flowing in like all of a sudden. It was like 10 minutes ago, zero.
Yeah, and then
CNN,
quickly.
New York Times, and Vox. I think we already got somebody waiting. Yeah. I bet you. I think that's Tony.
Nah, I think that's Will.
Might be Will. Okay, yeah, it might be. Oh yeah, 704. That's North Carolina.
Yeah.
I do that. That's North Carolina.
All right, let's get into this. Get 1 second here. All right. I think we're ready to take our first caller from the 704. Caller, you're on the air live with LTMB.
What's up, man? This is Will from North Carolina.
What's going on, Will? How you doing tonight?
What's up, Will? How you doing, man?
What's up? I'm doing good. How y'all doing?
Yeah, man. How y'all managing that hurricane? Just in general, like the area you live in and you personally.
I'm around the central part of the state.
Okay.
Just north of Charlotte, which is kind of the southern part of the state. Charlotte kind of makes up the southern part of the state. But I remember when Hurricane Hugo came through in '89, and I was like 6 years old. Man, it looked like Armageddon when I went outside the next morning. But it was particularly bad, I believe, right there where I was at, because this humongous tree fell and just barely kept from turning the lights out on my whole family. So got lucky in that one. But so yeah, I'm a little concerned about this big hurricane coming. I know how far inland from Hugo that it can affect.
Yeah, and it's gonna be hovering for some days. So, like I said, we can just hope for the best. Hope that too many lives are, not gonna be impacted by this. Right.
I didn't know if you guys would even be doing the show tonight, to be honest with you. But
we didn't either.
Yeah.
So.
Well, I saw the. This is this is what I saw. This is a like little diagram of the chart, and it states that I think like Saturday is when it should be getting to like, I guess like central South Carolina, the Midlands. So tonight I think we'll be good. Even Friday, maybe late Friday, Saturday is when we'll start seeing something. I don't know. But yeah, for the people that are in those coastal cities, it's probably gonna be tonight, early morning, Friday, stuff like that, where they're going to be seeing some really strong winds and rain.
It made the edge of the storm made contact a few hours ago with the coast. I was watching it live, and I had seen there was already 18,000 people without power earlier, just as it was making contact, and so yeah, it's already hitting there on the coast. But yeah, like I know. Like you said, sometime tomorrow, maybe, I guess, late, can expect to see the full effects. It kind of slows down there when it hits land. It kind of hovers. Like I said, it's going to hover for a while. So, but yeah, not looking forward to that. These big storms, they're coming very frequently. It's just not good. Not good. But,
all right, what
yeah,
you got
I see you
for
pull
us
that
today?
up. Yeah. Oh wow. Oh man. Yeah, I see what it's projecting there. That's interesting. Let's see. Well, one thing. I was. There was something I want to say first. I'm going to forget now. But I was reading Buckminster Fuller's Critical Path. If anybody's familiar at all with that, you can get a free PDF online if anybody's interested. It's kind of a weird read, but one thing I picked up at the very beginning of the book that I wanted to share was Mr. Fuller identified 1969 as a year where human beings had the capability to have everybody in the world's human needs met. And his idea was that there needed to be sort of global cooperation, which I agree with. But also another thing is he mentioned that that it would be much more sustainable and efficient for schooling or education to be done at home. That we had at the time the book was wrote. He had mentioned being done on VHS cassette. So even at that time, he was saying that not long after '69, but so in the past couple of decades, he was saying saying that. So now those capabilities are even much more there, and these are things I agree with. I just think that again that we've become stuck in old patterns, and it is fairly recently that we've gained the technology and means to do much better, and it's been really difficult to progress in a better direction as a result of power that's really has its claws dug in, and one thing that really I struggle with is trying to understand how much do the people, the oligarchs, and the people who are really running things and have immense amounts of power over everybody's lives in the world. How much do they understand? And I find it hard to believe that they're ignorant, and that's particularly troubling. But I mean, I can't even be sure. So, but I do find that hard to believe. But yeah, one thing I wanted to say too was I was gonna read something here from just a little short passage. It may be hard to find, but yeah, this is good actually. Oh, give me 1 second. I'm sorry. Here it is. To know, this is from the book. This is actually right before chapter 1. This I'm going to read. To know now what we could never have known before 1969, that we now have an option for all humanity to, quote, make it successfully on this planet in this lifetime, is not to be optimistic. It is only a validation of hope, a hope that had no operationally foreseeable validity before 1969. Whether it is to be utopia or oblivion will be a touch-and-go relay race right up to the final moment. The race is between a better informed, hopefully inspired young world versus a running scared, misinformedly brain-conditioned older world. Humanity is in a final exam as to whether or not it qualifies for continuous in university. And goes on, it gets a little hard to read, but he writes in a weird way, as you can kind of tell there. But and I think that's just it kind of hits the nail on the head that we're stuck in a lot of old ways, and we have the reason I see the hope is because you see a huge change in the millennial generation, and then the generation that follows. We're seeing a huge change on race relations is one way, but also a much more openness to true democracy, socialism, and the sharing economies, and all of these things that are scaring the crap out of the old people. But, and, it's hard to kind of predict that we would have seen such a big shift within 1 or 2 generations, but it's very clearly there. And so that's where some of the hope comes from. And also what Mr. Fuller or Bucky Fuller had mentioned too in another section, I'm not going to try to find this, kind of hard, was that what was about, I just lost my train of thought, but sorry, I do that sometimes. I had a few things going in my head at the same time, but I'll let you go for a minute. I'll collect my thoughts again.
Okay. Well, let me see if I could, pinpoint anything in regards to like the many things you kind of brought up and introduced. One thing that stood out to me is when you talked about whether the elites know what they're doing or not. And you made it clear that there's no way to know, and there's not any way to know whether these elites are self-aware, whether they, are aware of, their greed and their power and what their greed and power creates, because those are traits that we all have. As much as people want to deny it, all of the things that we rail about and all the things that we, I guess, disgust us about elites, those traits exist within us. And I think I know they're human too. And they have things that they're blinded by. And they justify certain things that they do. So I don't think they're all completely aware. No different than like individuals in our lives, individuals that surround you, me, Will, everybody. Are we completely aware of everything that we do? Are we completely aware of all the harm that we may cause? Are we? I can say we're not.
Right.
So at a, at the lowest common denominator in society, if you're looking at class, I can't make the claim, just like you, that the elites and they know exactly what they're doing. Even I can say some of our representatives, I think they're clueless. I think there are some people that actually believe that capitalism is the way to, I guess, take this world out of its impoverished state. I do think that there's a lot of people who genuinely believe that capitalism is not what's creating the impoverished state, but it's going to bring us out of it. I do think that there are people who genuinely think that. Now, I think you would agree that there are individuals who know it's a damn game and know they're full of shit and know that they're horrible people. They just don't care. I can't just make a blanket statement about, like you said, the oligarchs, because they're human too, and they have some of the same desires that we do. It's just that theirs are very extravagant and exaggerated. You did mention. I'm glad you mentioned the whole kind of the gap and the rift between the older generation and the younger generation. And did you mention something about it coming to a head very quickly at this time? You said it came to a head in a very short period of time. Well, that has to do with technology. You know what I'm saying? Everything is going to come, a lot quicker. Conflict is going to come a lot quicker. But I do see that as well. And I do think that's ironic that when the world goes to shit, the previous generation tends to always point the finger at the younger generation as if they had a hand in it. That's always been that's always been ironic to me. It's like that would be like, the guardian and the parents of a household blaming the kids when the house is fucked up. You know what I'm saying? Now, as far as trying to develop a society and formulate a system where people are educated in the home, that's going to be tough, man. Because I don't think that's how societies are built anyway. Most societies and most civilizations are built where people, I guess, express their strongest traits within the village or the community. And there are people who are good with like woodworking, people who are good with electricity, people who are good with agriculture and people who are good at teaching certain things. I think many people in society have different qualities and different traits that we all can use, even in the most primitive cultures and the most what we call primitive like groups of people. There's not one person doing one thing. They're all doing, you know, something to contribute to their society or their civilization. So I don't think that's a really realistic and ideal way to look at it. I think at its base, it's good. I think at its base, I don't see any problem with it. I think that's just, I guess that position that you have creates a foundation like itself, but I don't think like that's sustainable and that's actually realistic. Because
that reminds me of where I was going to go with it. As soon as I can jump in, let me know. And
no, you can jump in anytime you want to, man. I don't.
If you don't mind, what you just said reminded me exactly where I was going to go. What one thing that I see that I've and a lot of what I believe. I mean, I've had many influences, but Mr. Fuller is definitely one. And I couldn't find the passage just now really quickly, but he was talking about how we about stay-at-home people, and that if we could, and I'm not saying, and see that's another thing is I'm not saying you're right to do some of these things overnight. It doesn't make sense. The way to get there is to begin socializing the most important things that sustain human life, such as food and shelter and, you know, the basic necessities of life, and of course education and the dissemination of educational materials and the research materials, and like the internet really does on its own. But what Mr. Fuller suggested is, and this goes along with a few things, but we if we were to be more stay at home and find things that need to be done and do those things that people aren't doing or willing to do or just don't see need to be done, and have the type of society where it is like an honor to participate in one of the teams of people that are necessary to do the work that's necessary. Because right now, as we see with technological unemployment, there's not enough work to go around for everybody. And so much of the work that's being done is work that doesn't contribute to society. It's actually, if you take out the fake monetary system, we're stunting our own growth. We're wasting so much resources to do things just to prop up a monetary system that's now counterproductive because we don't have that situation of scarcity any longer. And and part of that is, you know, like I said, being able to be more in charge of your education and doing that at home. But and the way I see it in a situation like that is, yeah, your parents would definitely have a you know, it's not like some people criticize communism. Communism is some sort of having no value on the family or something, but of course that's a natural thing that's very natural to family, and of course your parents when you're a child are always going to have an influence on even maybe what type of or how you are going to contribute to society in the future, and your studies and everything. But I mean, we now have the type of society where this is not only a type of circumstance that looks good or sounds good, but it's most efficient, and that's the thing about it. And you know, the idea that people would just sit around and do nothing and so forth is completely against what science tells us about human nature. So Yeah, like I said, it's not something that can be done overnight. But if we have that goal in mind, what would we do? Right now, we would implement a universal basic income. That is one of the most important things we can do to give people the freedom to be able to construct the modern society that is necessary now with around 1969, where we have this new technology that's really changed everything, just like the industrial revolution that led to the French Revolution, very bloody global revolution to do away with feudalism. And what we have now is really just a neo-feudalist socioeconomic system, and that's become even more neo-feudalist. And so, I mean, even regardless of what we think of what we do, we're going to have some sort of major change anyway. I mean, I think that's on the horizon, and so I think the best way to have it not be such a bloody one is to do something, try to move in a direction that's the most rational and reasonable. And first things first is making sure that people's basic needs are met and they have access to education. And just like in the passage I read, that can really go to the passage I read, was that are we going to be afraid and mind controlled and ignorant and naive, or are we going to be informed and educated? And school is way different than education. School is, I think everybody kind of knows at this point that your schooling is as much propaganda as anything, and your education is something that really transcends that, and it's something that you're responsible for personally. And that's hard for people to take that responsibility and to be as educated and as informed as they want to be, because we're so caught up trying to survive in a system that puts us on a treadmill and makes us work to destroy the planet. We're not even doing anything useful for society in most cases. And those are things that need to be addressed. And like I said, but instead of saying, let's all do all this tomorrow, how can we get there? And the way we get there is, like I said, to start socializing things. And this is one of the most important things, is to make money less pervasive in our life for everybody. And that way we could even move away from money completely. If it makes people feel secure that we always have a certain amount of credits equally distributed to go on vacations or do everything, if that really is necessary, then fine. But I mean, not make it where your survival is tied to your luck and circumstance and your labor. So I'd like to know what you think about that.
No, man, you made a lot of good points, man. You always bring up a lot of things for us to digest. I would say what you were saying today is a little bit easier to follow than what you were saying
I've been
a few
working
weeks
on that.
ago about, you know what I'm saying? The philosophical conversation you about trying to have today was a little more put together.
Yeah, this caused people to think, how they see life,
and
how they see people that are.
I owe that a lot to you guys for giving me the opportunity to work that out.
Yeah, and before you go, because we're about to run out of time, before you go, just whatever book that was you're reading, just maybe put it in the chat. You know what I'm saying? Just let
good idea.
That was the book that you quoted and whatnot. Just put it in the chat.
Okay.
Yeah. But
Yep.
yeah, man.
We appreciate you calling in, man.
We appreciate you calling, man. Always.
Oh yeah, I appreciate it. I appreciate all the hard work y'all do too to keep the show going and up, and all the time you spend every week. I appreciate it. Y'all have a good night.
Appreciate it, man.
You too,
Thank
man.
you.
Stay safe out there too in North Carolina, man.
Oh yeah, thanks. You too.
All right.
Good night.
All right.
Update on it, man.
Well, all right. Was that McConaughey?
Yeah, dog.
Well, all right.
Oh, it's close between Jermaine and Williams and Kathy.
Yeah, he hasn't quite pulled away yet.
Dog,
Hachul?
Hachul.
Yeah,
I don't know. It's like it's close. I mean, it's about 5,000 votes. He's leading by 5,000 votes with 47% reporting.
Well, I don't think it's been called yet, but the Zephyr Teach out. She was going for Attorney General of New York, and right now it's not looking too good. Letitia James has about 46.5% of the vote.
Yeah, and the way the votes are being distributed, through the third candidate, that's not looking good.
No, it's not. I was hoping that she would have a better showing than that, because she is. I mean, she's known.
She's known.
She's definitely known. I think she's winning in Manhattan. But all the other, a lot of different other counties, she was not winning.
Yeah, that's like the most populated. Yeah, she's only winning that one. See, that But all that's Letitia James. All that. The most populated area is all Letitia James.
Yep. Yeah, all the other boroughs, Letitia James is winning. What else? Yeah, like you said, Jamani Williams. He has about 35,000 vote lead.
It must have just.
Oh, hold on. You know what? Maybe. Let me refresh it and see. No.
Yeah, she came back.
Yeah, it's only about like under.
See,
4,
now I thought I had to refresh.
Yeah, I had to refresh. That's it. So it's at 48% right now. Yeah, that one is way too close to call. Trying to see if I can get information about these state results, for Julia Salazar.
Was it Arizona?
No, it's in New York.
New York.
Yeah, but it's the state senate. Oh, she did win. Yeah, it's already been called. Said, well, Rolling Stone magazine already said that she's won. Yep. Roughly 57% of the voting as of this write-in. It was the state senate's 18th district. So she's one of those, candidates, just like Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. But she's going to be within the New York State Congress. But that's a good move, man. That's good. She won, 57% of the vote. That's good. Definitely good. Let's hope Jumaane can pull it out, man.
Come on, Jumaane. Michael Jackson voice. He's talking about L Train. Stupid, yo. Stupid.
Yeah, we talked about a few weeks ago. We talked about Kyrsten Sinema in Arizona.
Yeah, that's why I brought Arizona, because I knew you want to talk about it.
Yeah, Kyrsten Sinema. She's running for Senate. She's running for Jeff Flake's spot, and she is running against Representative Marthy McSally. And no doubt that McSally is seen as the favorite because this is Arizona. And like I said, it's Jeff Flake's old seat, or his current seat right now. He hasn't left office yet. But according to a recent poll, a Fox News poll, Sinema leads McSally 47% to 44%. So that's at least a little bit surprising. Like I said, there's no doubt that Sinema would be looked at as the underdog. But I did note when she won her primary that it's possible that that type of Democrat might be able to get the job done in Arizona. She's a member of the Blue Dog Coalition, conservative group.
So basically, if you live in a red state, you ain't got to do too much. You ain't got to go too left to win. So you could play kind of that centrist game plan and possibly win because you don't look too scary.
That's right. And that might be what's going on here. That would be, look, man, I think the idea out there is that it's almost like assured that the Democratic Party is going to take back the House. That's the way it's looking. But the Senate was seen as something that was more difficult to accomplish. But if we're looking at possibly a Sinema win in Arizona, if we're looking at Texas, with Ted Cruz possibly going down, you're looking at both houses.
That's why Trump was at
control.
That's why Trump was at that rally talking about get out and vote. His mugs basically said, if y'all don't vote, they're going to impeach me. It's your fault.
Yeah, it's going to be your fault if it happens because you didn't go out there and vote.
And I was like, no, it's going to be your fault because you did some bullshit. I'm like
multiple bullshits. Straight up. It ain't going to be nobody else's fault.
Plural.
That guy's right there.
That's kind of funny how he did that, man. That's some slick shit right there.
Yeah, man.
That's some slick shit.
Put the onus on them.
Like
I got no agency here.
Yeah, I have no agency. But you know what else is saying? It's basically he's telling his base, I'm guilty. That's basically what he's saying. But it's so funny. His base don't even care. They just...
Like I said, unconditional support, man. It will always be there no matter what side of the aisle you're on.
These Dems get in. They're going to get me. They're going to get me.
He was like, they'll say about me, oh, he was doing great things, but he got impeached.
Hey, man, that's funny how he's writing his own story. Except that first part won't be right.
I'm saying
that's his own embellishment, but he's writing his own story.
He is, man.
He's doing, I guess, great things as far as, because he likes to grade himself.
Right.
Oh,
you know what? There is one update that we wanted to talk about in North Carolina. Last week, this is bad news, of course. Last week, a federal court ruled that North Carolina's gerrymandered congressional map will be used for the general election in November. So this was the map that Republicans had a second bite at the apple at because there was a 3-judge panel that ruled that the congressional map that the Republicans had created was due to partisan gerrymandering. You need to do it again. So they did it again. It was still partisan gerrymandered, right? So they appealed to the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court was like toss that junk back down. So we went right back to the same 3-judge panel, and they were like, nothing's changed. All right, so you have until a certain date. Actually, they only give them like 4 or 5 days.
Yeah, 4 or 5 days.
Yeah, to submit
because that was
a petition to allow them to,
I
guess, like recreate another map.
And the reason they only had 5 days is because that was their second go around.
Yes, and because like I said, the upcoming election, the general election, is coming. So like this is timely, right? I mean, like this is like we need to get this done like right now. But so the judge ruled, the federal court ruled that this is what it said. Having carefully reviewed the parties' briefing and supporting materials, we conclude that there is insufficient time for this court to approve a new districting plan and for the state to conduct an election using that plan prior to the seating of new Congress in January 2019. Also, it said, and we further find that imposing a new schedule for North Carolina's congressional elections would, at this late juncture, unduly interfere with the state's electoral machinery and likely confuse voters and depress turnout.
Well, what was the point of them trying to, rush this requirement for the petition? You know what I'm saying? What was the point?
Yeah.
It just seemed as if
it was a different court, I believe.
Different court, okay.
Yeah, this is a different court that ruled this.
And it looks like that first attempt by Republicans to redraw the line was a purposeful failure. So just delay,
kick it down the road, and hopefully the same map will be used and will be good for at least 2 years.
That's just giving them 2 years, like, just for nothing.
You know how long 2 years is?
That's a long time, man.
So we participated in partisan gerrymandering. We participated in disenfranchising voters, and we're gonna get away with it because it's not enough time.
Not only gonna get away with it, you're gonna commit a crime and then get a reward for it.
Yeah. Why don't you penalize them?
You know, exactly. Why don't you penalize
They're
them?
the ones that put you in this position. They're the ones that put everybody in this position. They specifically and intentionally wanted to disenfranchise voters, and this court is just gonna be like, well, yeah, we know we did. We know they did it, but you know. So I guess the good news is that this map won't be able to use after this general election in November.
Thanks.
That's great.
Thanks.
That's absolutely great, man. Yeah, that's what did it. And also, you know, we'll talk about this briefly. Dianne Feinstein. So Brett Kavanaugh, you know, he had the confirmation hearing last week. That was last week.
That was
right?
last week.
Yeah, he had the confirmation hearing, and I believe next week is when the Senate is set to vote on it. I believe so. I believe the Senate is set to vote on it next week on his confirmation. It appears that Senator Dianne Feinstein had a document that she wasn't releasing to the rest of her Democratic senators, and it dealt with something in Brett Kavanaugh's background. And apparently it contained information about an allegation of sexual misconduct between Kavanaugh and a woman during high school. So this is years and years and years ago. This document, or I guess this account, was, I guess, the information fell into the lap of another representative from California, Anna Eshoo, and she's a Democrat, of course. So she got the information, and a letter was sent to her, and then so she in turn sent that to Dianne Feinstein. It seems as though the woman that's involved in this does not want her name to be released. It seems that she doesn't want to pursue anything about this. She doesn't want this to be made public, and so Dianne Feinstein is trying to honor that request. But she did forward, I guess, the concern to the FBI. She gave it to the FBI, or I guess whatever details that she had. BuzzFeed News, they believe that they know the identity of the woman who is the subject of the letter, but they reached out to that woman and she declined to comment. They also said that there's a lawyer, Deborah Katz, who is the a Me Too attorney, and she was seen leaving Capitol Hill on Wednesday, and this was shortly before The Intercept had reported on this information. Katz declined to comment or confirm whether she was supporting the woman or not. She said there's nothing to say.
Yeah, that probably has to do with the request of said woman.
Yes.
It's probably respecting the request of said woman. So if anything comes out, it will be, I guess, up to the woman that made the accusation. And no one else. Because they don't want to cause a firestorm, and create a situation that this person is not ready for. If anything, it should be up to that person.
Right.
And I'm not defending Kavanaugh at all, because we don't know anything.
Right.
But it's not just about him. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah,
you don't want to put
that woman too.
It's about that woman too. You don't want to put her through something that she is not ready to go through. You don't want to just force her hand, because she's gonna most likely be swarmed.
Yeah. Oh no, it's not even probable. It's guaranteed that she will be swarmed. I'll be fair. I'll be fair and balanced here. I don't know how or who the letter came from. I don't know how like I said, it was a letter that was sent to a representative, Anna Eshoo of California. I don't know who sent it to her. I don't know if it was the woman saying that, hey, Kavanaugh is going through this. Hey, this is something that, needs to be addressed about him. I don't know who it came from. I will say, if it came from the woman, if the information came from the woman and the woman was like, okay, well, yeah, you can go ahead and direct that to, Anna Shu. Let them know, about him. But I don't want to be involved. I don't want my name in this. I don't want anything coming to me. If that's the case, I'm totally against all of this, because you can't just throw something out there and then be like, hands off. I'm not a part of this. If it deals with you, if it deals with a subject like sexual misconduct, you can't just reveal the details and then be like, hands off. I don't want nothing to do with it. Like, you're gonna have to put your name on it at some point.
Kind of like the Keith Ellison situation.
That's what I'm saying. You're gonna have to address it at some. You can't just throw that information out there and just be like, that's it. Sorry,
that's it.
I don't need to say any more. I'm totally hands off. This isn't about me. You do what you want with it, but don't bring my name into it. I don't want to. I'm not cooperating with any kind of investigating or anything like that.
Especially at right now.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying. Especially,
it's timely.
It's timely. So,
like, there's no doubt that I oppose Brett Kavanaugh's nomination, but it doesn't matter who it is. Doesn't matter who it is. If something like this is being done, just if you're just gonna throw that information out there, but you're not gonna actually cooperate with any type of questioning, investigating about
that's
it.
That's not a good look.
That's horrible. That's horrible, because it's going to stick to him. Nobody's going to know if it's true or not. It's just going to be assumed that he's guilty just because it was thrown out there. So I'm totally against that. Like I said, I have no idea how this information got out, if she approved it or not. Maybe in the coming days we'll get some more clarification on that. Maybe not. But if we don't, I don't think this is something that should be able to use against Gaillard.
I agree. Unless there's details, then it shouldn't even be an issue that anyone brings up.
Yeah. And that's just being fair, man. That's just, like I said, no matter who it is, man, that's just being fair. All right, man. I think we're going to get out of here. And got a tough weekend. Probably, maybe, possibly, plausibly, with the storm coming.
Oh yeah, could be. I mean, I think we'll be all right.
Yeah.
I'm really.
It's gonna be a lot of rainfall.
It's gonna be a lot of rain, maybe power outages. It's not really that I'm particularly worried about, because we're not gonna see extreme stuff. Probably just got to worry about branches falling and power going out. And
trees around too. Trees
fall. So I don't know. And
like I said, we're going to stay safe, and hopefully people along the coast, hopefully all of them except for the thrill seekers have gotten out. You thrill seekers are crazy as hell, man. But like I said, hopefully...
Hurricane hunters.
Yeah. That's what I'm saying. Don't be hunting no hurricanes, man. But hopefully most of you got out, most of them got out, and we won't see, a tragic loss of life. I mean... I hope not even one life is ended because of this storm. But we know that in these affected areas is going to get thick. Like the danger is going to get really thick in some of these areas. So just stay safe. We hope that you have gone to a shelter or something like that. We hope you have a big, strong brick building or something, or just something, man. Because like I said, from that FEMA official, it's going to be like a Mike Tyson punch. And we know what that used to be like back in the 80s and 90s, man. So just prepare for it. And Malicious hit us with with a contribution very late in the stream.
I know, boy. That shot clock cheese, boy. Shot clock was running out. She came through. Thanks for coming through.
Counting down. Thank you very much, Malicious.
Buzzer beater.
Oh, and actually, we do want to mention another gentleman.
Oh, yeah.
His name is Sebastian. So he sent us a message on Facebook and actually included an image. He had bought some LTMB gear. So we definitely want to shout you out, Sebastian. Thank you very much for being supportive of the show and, of our platform. Can't thank you enough. That makes 3 now that we know of. We've gotten 3 pictures from people that have actually bought merchandise, LTMB merchandise, and sent us the pictures of them wearing the merchandise. So
this person posted it on Sebastian posted it on our wall.
Yeah, on the LTMB wall on
so
Facebook.
We really appreciate that.
No doubt. It was kind of
weird.
Yeah.
Because it's the ones that have our images on it. So I'm not really used to that. I was like, whoa, that's kind of like, it's kind of hit me. I'm like, whoa, I wasn't ready for that.
Yeah, I was not expecting that at all. It was like just came out of nowhere. So, yeah, definitely appreciate that support, man. Definitely appreciate that. So, yeah, and you know what? We saw you guys talking on the last show at the end. We had played the Jean song. And you know what? I don't think Jean here no more. I think she left a little bit earlier.
That's kind of funny. There's like, is that Jean's song?
Yeah. Some of you were like,
dang.
Is that Jean's song? I don't know. And then somebody was like, nah, I don't think that. No, that was Jean's song. That was the Mike. That was the Jean inspired. Mike made it song.
I made another song, but I didn't kind of finalize it. Yeah, but I got another song out there.
But yeah, man. Like I said, shout out to Will for calling in. Thank you very much to adding to the program. Everybody that was active in the chat, thank you very much. Everybody that's watching and continues to support us, thank you very much. All of our patrons on patreon.com. Special shout out to all of you, and another shout out to Malicious for beating that shot clock, getting us some money to do some good things with. So that's all I got, man. It's not raining here. It's not.
Yeah, I know, man. We good. I know that we thought for a moment that the show might be affected if it started raining. Dealing with power outages. Without power, we can't do the damn show.
Exactly.
I mean, we could, but it would be on a damn cell phone.
I know.
Running out of energy.
I know. And you got to preserve that energy. You don't know when that electricity is gonna come back. But yeah, man, had a good time. Hope everybody enjoyed the program tonight. We'll be back on the what's that? Today's the 13th, so it'll be the 18th. Be back September 18th, Tuesday. September 18th.
Always seems so far away, but we'll have a lot to talk about.
No doubt
on that day, on that night.
By then, the worst of the storm
will be. Yeah. I think most of the schools are actually out Monday. Or I don't think they've officially called for the cancellation, but I can see them doing that, especially in South Carolina.
Yeah, probably so. Yeah, you know how South Carolina gets, man. Just the slightest hint of something happening. Oh, close the school. Buy some water.
Milk and bread.
I used to work at a grocery store back in the day when I was 16. When it rained, just the fact that it rained, that was the busiest time of any other time. Not like rush hour or like like I said, like 4 or 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock. People getting off work. You would think, hey, this is time. People, I'm going straight to the store before I go home because I don't want to come back out. No, if it rained, everybody's coming to the grocery store. I'm like, don't y'all want to stay? Don't y'all want to stay dry?
I was at Kroger. I think it was Tuesday night or Monday. It might have been. I can't remember. I think it was Tuesday. Yep, it was Tuesday after the show. I went to Kroger. Man, I went in there. I saw 3 separate groups of people. And this woman had 10 family packs of water. And it was one of the 24 packs. So she had 240 bottles of water.
240?
She had 10. I saw them helping her load into the car. I was like, God dang.
Yo, people get ridiculous, man. You're expecting the end times. You need it for about a year or so, man. I don't think it's gonna get that bad.
Maybe she's sharing it, so I don't know.
I don't. Like I said, I never experienced rain. Just rain brings people out. Oh, it's raining? Gotta get some water.
Come on, y'all must be surviving on damn coffee and Coke all the time, but now y'all need all the water in the world.
Gotta get canned goods. Gotta get all the canned goods. Just because it's raining? Hey, I was a bagger.
Oh, dang.
So I'm mad.
You mad.
I gotta go outside, help these people to their car. I'm looking at them real funny, real crazy. Why you come out here in this damn rain, man? One time this woman gave me a penny. I threw that junk right on the ground.
I would too. I mean, I may just hide out behind another car and just throw it at him.
All right, man. Everybody take care out there. We'll be back after the weekend on Tuesday. This is Let the Madness Begin. Peace out, everybody.